We are on the record for hearings in the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for January 23rd. I am David Garner, hearing examiner for these hearings. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9 a.m. On the docket, the following matters will be continued or dismissed. Case number 31472, continued. Case number 31477, continued. Case number 31478, continued. Case number 31479, continued. Case number 31317, continued. Case number 31353, continued. Case number 31300, continued. Case number 31301, continued. Case number 31154, continued. The administrative docket starts on page 6 with case number 31487 and goes through case number 31499 on the supplement. These cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zisch. Audio recordings of the cases on the administrative docket will be placed on the Oil and Gas website by the end of the week. If you wish to appear in one of the matters on the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there is opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into this hearing room to be heard and your statements and evidence will be taken. We will begin with moving to case number 31472. Application of Coda Resources Operating LLC for an order to amend order number 33007 and any other orders of the Commission for the Fertile Valley Bakken Pool, Divide County, North Dakota, to eliminate the requirement that one horizontal well be completed in a 1280-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 4 and 9, Township 160 North, Range 102 West, at approximately the same time or prior to completing any horizontal well in a 1920-acre spacing unit described as sections 4, 9, and 16, Township 160 North, Range 102 West, in Zone 3, and such further relief. This case has been continued to the February hearings. That concludes our hearing for case number 31472. Case number 31473, application of EOG Resources, Inc. for an order amending the field rules for the Stanley Bakken Pool, Montreal County, North Dakota, to create and establish an overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 6 and 7, Township 155 North, Range 90 West, authorizing the drilling, completing, and producing of a horizontal well on said proposed overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit and such other relief as appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Examiner and members of the staff. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in case number 31473 on behalf of EOG Resources, Inc. We intend to call two witnesses in this matter. Ms. Anna Morgan will be offering some land testimony. Ms. Morgan will be appearing by telephone. And then we also have with us today Mr. John Schmidt will be offering some geologic and engineering testimony.
Ms. Morgan,
Good morning.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Anna, by whom are you employed
EOG Resources, Inc.,
and in what capacity?
Land Advisor.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the Commission previously?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
To offer the further testimony of this witness, that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Anna, let's turn to the packet of exhibits for case 31473. Let's start with the cover page, which has also been previously marked as Exhibit L1. What I would like you to do, please, is first identify Exhibit L1 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Exhibit L1 is a regional location map that shows where the boundary of the Stanley Bakken Pool falls within the Montreal County, North Dakota.
And Exhibit L2.
L2 is an area location map that shows where our requested 1,280-acre spacing unit falls within the Stanley Bakken Pool. We are requesting that sections 6 and 7 of 155 North, 90 West be spaced as a 1280.
Okay. And then Exhibit L3.
Exhibit L3 is a zoomed-in land plat which shows our requested spacing area. Our working interest in that unit is 34.3%.
And then Exhibit L4.
Exhibit L4 shows the existing spacing units that are underlying these two sections. There are 640 acre spacing units. There is a 1,280 acre spacing unit that Stevens spaced, which includes the west half of section 6 and 7, and EOG spaced a 1920 that includes the east half of section 6 and 7. And none of those are able to be terminated at this time. They'll be drilled.
And because EOG owns less than a majority interest in the proposed spacing unit, will EOG negotiate with other working interest owners to determine who should be the operator?
Yes, we've talked to Stevens at length about this, and they fully support our application. They own 32% in the spacing unit.
I'm sorry, I missed, you've been talking with who?
Stevens,
Okay, all right,
Stevens Production.
okay, thank you. No further questions of this witness.
Any questions from the staff? Mr. Schmidt,
Yes, sir.
raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
John, by whom are you employed,
EOG Resources
and in what capacity?
as a senior geological engineer and manager of operations coordination.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
I have.
Offer the further testimony of this witness as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, John, let's move to the next exhibit in the packet. It has been previously marked as Exhibit G1. As Anna did with the land exhibits, I'd first like you to identify G1 and then briefly describe what's contained upon it and why it's pertinent to this particular matter.
G1 shows a Bakken structure map with the Bakken dipping to the southwest and top of the Bakken present at about 7,000 feet subsea under the spacing unit. The Burke 316 pilot hole is highlighted in red. This is then shown on G2. That is shown as the type log then on G2, showing that the Upper Bakken Shale, Middle Bakken, Lower Bakken Shale, and Three Forks are all present under the spacing unit.
Okay, let's go to G2 if you have more to add
No,
than what you've already testified to.
G2 just shows that Burke 3-16 pilot hole and the formations there. We're planning on only drilling a Middle Bakken in this unit.
It's basically a demonstrative of what you just described. is that
Exactly,
correct?
yes.
Okay, let's go to E1. Tell us what E1 is.
E1 then shows the spacing unit with the lands and what we're proposing, which is one Bakken well. Essentially, this is a line well in between two spacing units, so it would be confined to 250 feet on either side of the center line of 6 and 7. So then you go to E2, shows the trajectory of that line, what that well would be. I think in a previous testimony, I had shown a surface pad that would have been slightly to the east when we asked for the 1920. We would move it a little bit to the west to be able to get this line well off the same pad. There are federal minerals in the inside the spacing unit. Those are highlighted in red. And so the green well is the well that we would we'd be proposing to drill in the Bakken, and the red wells would be our additional wells in the 1920 spacing unit to the east.
And the proposed well, I mean, there's just a lot of information on this exhibit, so
Yep.
just for the record, the green dashed line is the proposed well. Is
That's
that
correct.
Okay, let's go to E3 and tell us what E3 is.
E3 then shows cross-section, a wine rack cross-section showing that we propose to drill this Middle Bakken well along with the other Middle Bakken wells on approximately 1,500 to 2,500 foot spacing, and they're all going to be in the Middle Bakken.
And E4.
E4 then just shows a zoom out of what E2 would have been, and that shows kind of what our overall development is for this area of the Burke Township. we're proposing the 2 wells in the 1920 just to the east of this line well, and then some longer wells that we're hoping to do to fill in the undrained reservoir to the east. We just last year did the blue wells to the south of the green box, which are our blueberry wells. So those were some of the longest wells we've done at the time, and now we're looking to fill in all that white space, I guess.
And this exhibit was prepared and submitted to respond to the commission's request that you provide a little bit of an idea
Yeah.
of what the development is in the area rather than just one spacing unit.
Exactly, exactly. So that's kind of the overall bigger picture and how we fit into the development that's out there and what we plan to do in the future.
Okay. And E5.
E5 then goes to the our typical design, which is a cemented liner. We'll be doing a plug and perf method for the completion with approximately 43 to 56 stages for a 10,400 foot lateral.
Okay, this is the standard configuration of the wellbore that you're
Yep.
utilizing in this area?
Yep.
Okay, and then E6?
E6 then goes into reservoir data based on oil in place. That 1280 has about 32 million barrels of oil in place. And then that goes to take that over to E7 to then show our economics. We're estimating for this lateral about a 7,800 or 781 thousand barrel of production EUR. The cost for this well is about 8.3 million. We are starting to see costs come down a little bit on the drilling side. Completions is still kind of high, but return on investment 1.09, and mainly that's due to the low working interest and NRI that we have in this unit. So
And Exhibit GC1, is that a gas capture affidavit that the commission typically requires in these sorts of matters?
it is.
In your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
I believe it will.
No further questions, Mr. Examiner. Offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
John, do you have an approximate spud date for this pad?
Not for this one, no. It's on our radar, but not on the schedule yet.
Okay.
We do have one rig that's going to be running this full year, and we're hoping to keep it running all the way into 2026. But at this time, we have other things that are on that schedule already.
And when you move on to this pad, would they be batch drilled?
Yes, we will do them in conjunction with the 2 other wells in the 1920 spacing unit the red dashed lines to the east.
And for those 2 short Burke wells that you're going to cross, would you plan to continue to produce them, or would you plug them?
We will temporarily shut them in, and then we will probably continue to produce them as long as they're mechanically producible after that.
Okay, thank you.
John, those 2 short lateral Burke wells, they're both Middle Bakken targeted wells?
They are.
Okay, and when you drill your, call it unit line well, that'll be Middle Bakken as well?
Correct.
Any special plans for when you're crossing those, or how you're gonna do your completions in adjacent to those existing laterals?
We probably will buffer a little bit smaller stages on either side of those laterals and not have perfs right under the lateral. We will go under. We've seen success in going under laterals instead of over laterals in the Middle Bakken. When we've had a couple of not intercepts, but passing unders in the last year, and even when we've passed under, we've seen no inclination, declination, interference from the wellbores. So we've either passed far enough around them, or the tools just aren't sensitive enough. So we think we've got a pretty good system for collision avoidance.
Okay, thank you.
John, on Exhibit E2, and maybe you can help my memory here. So the west half of 6 and 7, that's a stand-up 640, is that right?
I believe it's a stand-up 1280 with the east half of, per Anna's exhibit, L4 with the east half of 1 and 12.
May I interject?
Yes,
There's a stand-up 640 on the west half of 6 and 7, and then there's also a 1280 that incorporates the west half of 6 and 7 and the east half of 1 and 12.
okay,
Sorry for,
okay.
there's a lot of lines on there.
So,
I know.
so the east half of 6 and 7, I mean, this seems a little unusual, but so the east half of 6 and 7, you're not planning on drilling any wells in there, right?
No, Stevens Production operates the west half of 6 and 7.
But in the east half, EOG is not going to drill any more wells in the east half of 6 and 7?
Other than the red dash well that's per the 1920,
Yeah,
that red dashed well would be part of the 1920 in E2.
so you refer to this as a lease line well, and I guess maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's a 1280 well in 6 and 7.
Yes, but our intention, I guess our intention with Stevens is that we wouldn't take it into the west half of there. We would essentially drill it down the middle. That's what I was trying
Yep.
to,
So are you going to drill it on the quarter line?
on the quarter line or the
On
half
the
line?
quarter lines, well,
Yeah, sure, yes, we would drill it, I mean, plus or minus probably 50 feet from the quarter line. I think I typically think of it, if it was a line well, we would keep it within 250 feet of each side, but yes, we would plan to drill it right down the middle.
okay, well, I'll have to think about this a little bit, whether it's a lease line spacing unit or not.
It's a funny one.
Okay, thank you.
Our intent is to be even with them and equal. I'm sure that's what the conversations that Anna has had with them.
Yes.
Anna, one additional question for you as well. I know you mentioned that there were no spacing units that could be dissolved at this time, but I'm assuming that that means that your communications with Stevens has indicated that they plan to put something on the west half of 5 and 7 on that stand-up 640?
Yes, they're planning to drill that, I believe, in June of this year.
Okay, so they are going to put something on that 640, and are they also planning to utilize that 1280 that is the west half of 6 and 7, east half of 1 and 12?
I believe that they've already drilled in sections 1 and 12, and yes, they plan to drill both of those spacing units, to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31473. Case number 31474, application of EOG Resources, Inc. for an order amending the field rules for the Alger Bakken Pool, Montreal County, North Dakota, to create and establish an overlapping 3,200-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 6, 7, 8, 16, and 17, Township 156 North, Range 92 West, authorizing the drilling, completing, and producing of a total not to exceed 3 wells on said proposed overlapping 3,200-acre spacing unit, and such other relief as appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Again, Mr. Examiner, Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this matter, case 31474, on behalf of EOG Resources, Inc. EOG intends to call the same 2 witnesses in this case as it called in the previous case.
Okay, they're still under oath, so you can proceed.
Anna, will you turn to Exhibit L1 and identify the exhibit, and then once again briefly describe what's contained upon it?
Exhibit L1 is a regional location map which depicts where the boundary of the Alger Bakken Pool falls within Montreal County, North Dakota.
L2.
L2 depicts where our requested 3,200 acre spacing unit falls within the boundary of the Alger Bakken Pool. We're requesting our spacing unit be comprised of sections 6, 7, 8, 16, and 17 of Township 156 North, 92 West.
And L3.
L3 is a zoomed-in shot of our requested spacing unit. EOG owns 76.8% working interest in this unit.
L4.
L4 is, again, the land plot showing our requested spacing unit, along with all of the underlying existing spacing units. There are multiple 640, 1,280, and 1920 units underlying this, which have all been drilled to date. And then there are also multiple 2560s. At this time, we believe that those all need to remain in place. We don't believe that there are any of those that could be terminated at this time.
And as far as the location of the well that you're proposing in the 3,200 acre spacing unit, the next witness will point that out in later exhibits, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions of the land witness.
Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
Okay, John, let's go to the next exhibit, G1.
Okay, G1 shows the Middle Bakken structure map, again with the dip of the Middle Bakken to the west-southwest in the area. The Ross 717 pilot hole is highlighted on this map, and the spacing units outlined, and the red dashed lines are the approximate trajectory of the well. It's a little hard to see on these geologic maps, and I have a better depiction of it on the engineering exhibit. Then on G2, that Ross 717 pilot hole well is highlighted, showing the Middle Bakken being Middle Bakken, Upper Bakken Shale, Middle Bakken, Lower Bakken Shale, and Three Forks being present. And then because we didn't go all the way into the bottom of the Three Forks on this pilot hole, I included G3, which is the then structure map on the top of the Three Forks Reservoir, showing cross-section 8A prime, going over to that A well, the Mel 4-21, which then shows the Three Forks all the way down to the Nisku, the log of the Three Forks all the way down to the Nisku, to show how thick the Three Forks is in this area, because it wasn't on the pilot hole.
And the log you just discussed, that would
Yep.
be Exhibit G4, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, let's go on to E1.
E1 shows the what we're asking for in this case, which is 3 wells total, 2 Three Forks and 1 Bakken.
And E2.
E2 then shows those 3 wells in yellow, and the outside one, or the westernmost one, would be a Three Forks well, middle one would be a Bakken well, and the eastern one would be another Three Forks well. And as you can see, we're starting down from a surface location in section 16. We're in negotiations for an SUA with the Vatchels on that location. And this, it'll be more evident in Exhibit E4, but these are fairly long wells. The longest one, the eastern one, being almost 3.5 miles. And we are hoping that if we are successful with those, we can try and extend some extended laterals in other parts of this field to allow us to reduce the number of wells we have to drill.
John, if you look at this exhibit, as you pointed out, the yellow solid lines are the proposed wells for the 3,200 acre spacing, is that correct?
Correct.
But there's a lot of other red dashed lines. Those are other wells that need to be drilled in this area or will be drilled in this area as well, is that correct?
That's correct. Those are potential infills in adjacent DSUs, and the ones to the southwest the DSUs have been formed. The ones to the east, we are actually going to try and expand some of those 2560s. So, like I said, in Exhibit E4, we'll kind of have the big picture of it. For the next exhibit, the cross-section, the blue line is shown in E4, and that just shows kind of the spacing in this next exhibit, the cross-section, engineering cross-section, wine rack, how those, how the wells will be spaced.
Before you go on to that exhibit, you'd mentioned that these are the ones we're proposing here today on the 3200, they're relatively long laterals. Is it a possibility that the wells that you have on here as red dashed wells, that you may come back and change some of those so that they be longer laterals, or are these pretty much?
These are shown as what those longer laterals would be
Okay.
in the future.
And some of them have been spaced and some have not, is that?
Correct, that's correct.
All right, let's go to E3.
E3 then shows the kind of the wine rack spacing, the three wells that we are proposing in this DSU are kind of in the center there, one Middle Bakken, and then two Three Forks wells in the first bench of the Three Forks. And the Middle Bakken and Three Forks spacing ends up being about 650 to 800 feet.
Okay, then let's go to E4.
E4 then shows this area with our kind of acreage position outlined, what you would have seen in Anna's exhibit showing where our acreage position is. And basically, if this well, the eastern well, that eastern Three Forks well at about 3.5 miles, if we're able to successfully drill it, complete it, and get it on production, that would give us the opportunity to then go to some longer wells and actually move some previous surface locations that we had and basically extend the drilling of wells in this area by into the 3 to 4 mile range, and so thus reducing the number of wells that we'd have to drill in the area as far as, and we're depicting one red dashed line in amongst some of these existing Bakken wells, and there's a possibility, like we're doing in this test, or in this 3,200 acre spacing unit, to possibly drill a Three Forks and a Bakken where some of these red lines are. We're really looking to see what the production results are, to see what the depletion is in the area, and then we will plan and space accordingly based on our operational tolerances and what we see in the production from these wells.
Your initial discussion on this exhibit, you indicated it depicts EOG's acreage position on here. Where on here does it depict the acreage position?
I'm sorry, in Anna, this is a rough outline or a rough snapshot of Anna's exhibit E, or L3, I believe,
Right, okay.
or L,
That
yeah,
depicts-
L3.
That depicts the acreage
That's
position in yellow.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, let's go on to exhibit E5. Can you tell me what E5 is?
Sure. Again, this is our typical wellbore design with a cemented liner. These wells will be 16,500 to 18,500 feet long with approximately 87 to 95 plug and perf stages. So it will be definitely the longest wells we've drilled in the Bakken. The longest wells right now are kind of in the 17,000 foot range that we've drilled out under the lake. So we're starting to push the levels of comfort with everyone, and we think that that's the best use of capital to drill longer wells.
Extending the wells a little bit further than you have in the past, does
Yep.
that cause EOG any concern?
No, I think operationally, we've seen others do it in this area, in or around the lake. And so we want to try it because we believe that's the most efficient use of capital.
So if EOG does go forward with these longer laterals, it won't be the first that has gone this far. Other operators have, is that correct?
There are a couple out under the lake that are about this size, or this length,
All right, let's
on the
go.
lateral.
Okay, E8.
E8 then just shows the reservoir data metrics, showing, getting down to that the 3,200 acre spacing unit would have 86 million barrels of possible recoverable reserves.
And E7.
E7 then shows the economics, or the EURs and economics for these 3 laterals. We've got a Bakken well at about 17,000 foot, the Three Forks well at 16.5, and then a Three Forks well at 18.5. And cost-wise, we're excited that these are on our rig schedule for 2025. They're scheduled to be spud in end of May, and we kind of kept them under $12 million, which for very long wells like this, we think is a pretty good feat.
So we finally have a request where we're not asking for an order in 2 weeks.
That is true.
Let's go on then to Exhibit BC1. Is that a gas capture affidavit that the commission typically requires in these sorts of matters?
It is, and the gas is being gathered by Steel Reef Gathering, and it goes to the Aux Sable Midstream plant in the Burke Township.
John, in your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
I believe it will.
Mr. Examiner, no further questions. Offer the exhibits that were discussed by the witness.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
John, would these be batch drilled?
Yes,
And
all at the same time. They would be all in the same pad, same time frame.
okay. How much productive lateral length would you have in section 16?
In 16, we should have between 5 and 800 feet on each of those. It very much depends upon where the valules let us put the surface location. We're trying to get it right under that, that are right on top of that Ross 23, 17, 16 lateral. The closer we can get it on top of that, it's one of their, we're in negotiations in the surface. It will all depend upon the surface location, because with such long laterals, we want to be going forward and not back building. So at least, I would say 5 to 700 feet. One or two of the bottom one, the one along that's shadowing, or that is paralleling the south section line, will probably be more in the 1,000-foot range.
So it'd be 500 to 800 feet per well?
Yes, on average, yes.
Okay. And given the position of it here, why include all of section 16 in the spacing unit?
I would defer to Ann on that, but that had been the precedent that had been set, that if you're including part of a unit, we include a part of a 640. Anna, can you?
Yeah, we believe that there's enough lateral length in that section to warrant including all of that section in there. And also with all of the, we have 1,280 acre spacing units that cross along there. And we think to keep with the precedent that it would make sense to keep these on full sections rather than breaking them up.
Okay, thank you.
John, on, I guess it's G1. I think I understand the answer after I looked at other exhibits, but section 16, 8, 5, and 6, there's that big gap running northwest to southeast through there. And I think on other exhibits you might have that planned. Let me go to it.
Yes.
E2 at a later date. Kind of on to Stephen's question, is there any consideration for adding that well in to this particular well, or is that just planned as a 2-well pad down the road?
It's planned as, it's shown as a 2-well pad. It might be more than one. That's a pretty good space in between in between the Ross well in section 8 and the Ross well in section 9, or the Three Forks well in section 9. And so, like I said, we're based on what we see in the production profile from these 3 wells that we drill, we might end up having 2 wells where I have one red dashed line shown. But yes, that they would be drilled off of that pad.
And at that time, you'll come in with additional, another
We would, yes, we would,
spacing unit encompassing
correct.
8 and 16
Yes.
yet again?
If you go to E3, our current pad design with the current 2560 spacing units has the pads, right now I'm depicting pads that are midsection of section 5, 6, and 5 and 6 on, and this is on E3. I'm depicting them as midsection pads. Our current design with the 2560s has them down along the south line of
Can you
4,
show me
5, and
what,
6.
can you show me which exhibit you're looking at?
I'm sorry, E3.
I think mine's E2.
E2, I'm sorry, E2, yes.
Okay, got it.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And so, what we're saying is that if we're successful with this longer 18,500 foot well, we believe we can then extend the surfaces and drill approximately 18,000 foot wells to the south and then 18,000 foot wells to the north as depicted in E4.
Okay, thank you. What, and then on E7, your operating costs are stated at 3,600 a month. Is that what I'm
Yes,
reading?
that's our standard.
What's your water to oil ratio in the area?
In this area, we're not as wet as we are in the main field on the three. The Bakken is not as wet, and the Bakken is wetter, and the Three Forks is not as wet in this area. Thus, in the main field, like in that Burke area, we tend to not drill the Three Forks because it is wetter. I could get you that. I don't have that right offhand.
Then what, you plan on utilizing saltwater disposal wells for your production water?
Yes.
Then what do you use for your frac water in this area?
We have used fresh and recycled water. Actually, part of the reason we're putting this well, or starting in section 16 and not up in the corner in 6, is that we have gas takeaway in the southeast corner, a compressor station in the southeast corner, Steel Reef does, of section 8. And then we are planning and actually have a permit for a saltwater disposal well along the west line, in the west half of 9. So we are planning on putting another saltwater disposal well in. There are other saltwater disposal wells that I believe Hess has that are just to the south of us in this area, maybe 2 miles to the south. So EOG on the water side, we will at least start by trucking the water, but we hope to have it on pipe in the early production life of the wells.
And when you say recycled water, that's beneficial reuse of your produced water?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And it just again, the question, $3,600 a month on your op cost, am I looking at that right?
Yes,
And is that your fixed operating cost?
that's what we put in for our LOE estimate.
Total or fixed?
Total fixed, yes.
Okay.
If I'm understanding the question right.
Well, I think it typically fixed and variable. It's not a huge
It
challenge if you don't have the
for our
answer to
for
it.
economics assumptions, we put it in as a fixed cost.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
John, on your E2, couple additional questions. Your northeastmost well, the longest one you're planning to drill, you indicated that was going to be a Three Forks target, correct?
Correct.
That red dash line on the other side of the 640 wells, are you projecting that as a Middle Bakken or a Three Forks potentially?
That's where I'm saying we
Still up in the air.
based on what we see in, because we're putting these fairly tight, tighter than we've typically done longer wells. If we see good production results, we will go tight, and that one dashed red will probably turn into 2, a Bakken and a Three Forks.
Okay. Comparing what you've got, that proposed Three Forks well, the northeasternmost well, drawn on your E2 to your G1, you're showing it threading that needle between the 2 existing wells. Have you considered dropping that down on the east side of the Ross 2917 and just going up that corridor rather than trying to steer between those well bores? You're gonna be in the Three Forks, so you're gonna be underneath them, so it won't matter. But.
Yeah, no, we were wanting to keep, as much distance at the heel of the well off of that, Ross, 2917 well.
Okay. It would, the reason I'm asking is it would give you a little bit more lateral length on that well in section 16 to help justify the entire inclusion of 16 in the spacing unit to some of Steve's questions, so is it something you would consider doing, or?
I would have to get back with our team on that. I know, yeah, that's all, I'd have to get back with them, but at this point, I would say no. But,
Record's closed, but
we would be open to a discussion on it.
you got the same witnesses, I mean.
Okay.
We kind of want to use that, reserve that, corridor, between those two wells in 16 and 17 for the future well coming from the north.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry. Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31474.
Tell me a note.
Okay, we're gonna move case number 31475 to the end of the docket
Well, good seeing you. Good seeing
and
you.
instead call case number 31476. Application of Savannah LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Foreman Butte Bakken Pool, McKenzie County, North Dakota as follows. 1, create and establish 2 overlapping 1920-acre spacing units comprised of sections 25, 26, and 27, and sections 34, 35, and 36, Township 150 North, Range 102 West. Authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 5 horizontal wells on each proposed overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit. And 2, create and establish 3 overlapping 38, 40-acre spacing units comprised of sections 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27, sections 25, 26, 27, 34, 35, and 36, Township 150 North, Range 102 West, and sections 34, 35, and 36, Township 150 North, Range 102 West, and sections 1, 2, and 3, Township 149 North, Range 102 West. Authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units on each proposed overlapping 38, 40-acre spacing unit and/or such further relief. All interested parties, please come forward.
Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota. Appearing in this matter, case 31475, case 31476 on behalf of Savannah LLC. My witnesses will be appearing by telephone, and they're in different locations, so I have to do a call-in number. It may take me a minute or two.
Welcome to Frederickson and Byron Conference Center.
Blew it.
Welcome to Frederickson and Byron. One moment, please. Enter the billing code, then press the pound or hash. At the tone, say your name, and then press the pound or hash key.
Lawrence Bender.
Hi, Lauren, Savannah here.
Hi. Is Ogden there as well? Hello.
Ogden,
So you got Ogden, Graham, and Kelsey?
hold on, we might be waiting just a second for Ogden to dial in.
Okay.
Sorry for the delay.
Ogden. All right, Lawrence, we have Ogden on the call.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Examiner, I think I indicated we're going to be calling three witnesses, Ogden Coleman, Graham McClave, and Kelsey Wallace, and they'll all be called by telephone.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury, testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir, I do.
Ogden, would you tell us by whom you are employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Savannah Energy Operating LLC and Savannah LLC as a senior landman.
And in that capacity, have you had an opportunity to testify before the commission previously?
Yes, sir.
And you've had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Ogden, let's turn to the packet of exhibit for case 31476. And let's skip the cover page and go to what's been previously marked as Exhibit L1. What I'd like you to do is identify Exhibit L1 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Yes, sir. Sorry, Lawrence. My computer just crashed pulling up the exhibit. Give me one moment. I apologize. L1 is a general locator map of the case in question, showing townships 150, 102. Sorry, again, I'm still pulling these up, going from memory here. 152, sections 27, 34, 26, that region there.
Okay.
Hold on. I apologize.
Do you have the exhibits up now on your computer?
No, I can't get them. They disappeared on me.
Perhaps we could move to the geologic witness and give you a little time to pull them up.
Yes, please.
Okay,
Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Can we move to Mr. McClave? Okay.
Mr. McClave,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury, testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir, I do.
Graham, by whom are you employed?
Yes, I'm employed by Savannah Energy Operating LLC and Savannah LLC, and employed as a staff geologist.
And in that capacity, have you had an opportunity to testify before the commission on previous occasions?
No, I have not.
What I'd like you to do, Graham, is briefly discuss for us your educational background and work experience.
Sure, no problem. So I graduated from the University of Colorado in 2010 with a bachelor's degree in geology. I followed that up with a master's degree in geology from Colorado School of Mines, completed in 2012, with an emphasis in petroleum geology. And I did thesis work in that degree focused on the Heath Formation in central Montana. Since 2012, I've worked as a petroleum geologist for 3 different operators, including Endeavor International, Augustus Energy Partners, and most recently with Savannah Energy. During that time, I gained experience in multiple Rockies basins, including the Big Snowy Trough in central Montana, Piceance Basin in Colorado, the Wind River, Bighorn, and Greater Green River basins in western Wyoming, as well as the Wilson Basin. Again, to clarify, my most recent experience has been with Savannah, and I've been with them since October 1st, 2021.
And in preparation for today's hearing, have you made a thorough study and review of all the relevant geologic matters concerning the request?
Yes, I have.
And have you prepared or had prepared under your control and supervision exhibits you intend to sponsor?
Yes, I have.
Now for the further testimony of this witness, that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Graham, let's go to the geologic exhibits. Let's go first to G1, can you identify G1 and then briefly describe what's contained upon it? And before you start, Graham, is somebody listening to the hearing while we're talking here?
No.
Okay,
I think we're clear on that.
okay, we're getting some feedback, so let's continue.
I apologize.
No, that's not a
Okay.
problem. If it continues, we'll have to try something else, but go ahead.
Okay. Yes, so Exhibit G1, the structure map on top of the Middle Bakken. The contour interval is 20 feet. And the structure map shows a gentle dip, the geologic strata to the east. The yellow acreage indicates Savannah's operating position in the Foreman Butte Bakken Pool. The area of interest for the two subject overlapping 1920 acre spacing units covers sections 25, 26, 27, sections 34, 35, and 36 of 150 North, 102 West. The area of interest for the three subject overlapping 3840 acre spacing units are as follows. The first 3840 contains sections 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27 of 150 North, 102 West. The second unit contains sections 25, 26, 27, 34, 35, and 36 of 150 North, 102 West. And finally, the third unit contains sections 34, 35, and 36 of 150 North, 102 West, with also sections 1, 2, and 3 of 149 North and 102 West. The small red box in the southeast corner of the map in section 1 highlights the nearest vertical well with available detailed logs for the area of interest, and it's the location of the type log shown in the next exhibit.
Before you go on to the next exhibit, is it correct that in addition to Bakken development in this area, there's also some Madison development?
Yes, that is correct. Madison development. Go ahead.
And is the Madison development primarily on 640 acre spacing with the wells running diagonally through the spacing units?
That is correct, yes.
So, and you haven't, and not that you need to, but I just want to make it clear for the record, you haven't distinguished the Bakken production or the Bakken development from the Madison development on this particular exhibit?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next exhibit that you touched on briefly in the previous testimony. Go to G2 and tell us what G2 is.
Yes, G2 is a type log, the nearest vertical well in the area of interest located in the southwest-southeast of Section 1, 149, 102 West, named the Powell number 1. It was drilled in December of 1980, reached a depth of 13,727 feet in the Red River Formation. The header columns contain the gamma ray and calipers in track 1, shallow resistivity and deep resistivity in track 2, and neutron porosity and density porosity in track 3. On the right side of the type log, you will see the formations described, starting with the Upper Bakken Shale, the Middle Bakken Member, Lower Bakken Shale, and the first Three Forks through the fourth bench of the Three Forks, and then the Nisku at the bottom, which is the same as the Bird Bear Formation, the local name for this interval. The target interval, as shown by a rectangular label on the left side of the type log, is the Middle Bakken target, which is 23 feet thick in the area of interest, and its cross-plot porosity averages 7.5%.
So all the development that you show as proposed development in these spacing units on Exhibit G1, that would all be Middle Bakken targets, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
I don't have any further questions for the geologic witness.
Any questions from the staff?
Graham, your existing Bakken development, those are the north-south trending wellbores in each of the 1280s, correct?
Yes, there is a three-fourths well in section 25 and 36 of 150 North, 102 West, and the other two further to the west of that are Middle Bakken well.
Okay, thank you. I suppose, I'll save that for your engineer, sorry.
Do you want to move on to the engineer, or?
I think so.
Ms. Wallace,
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury, testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Kelsey, by whom are you employed?
Savannah Energy Operating LLC and Savannah LLC.
In what capacity?
I'm a VP of Operations.
And you're an engineer, is that correct?
Correct.
And in your capacity as an engineer, have you testified before the commission previously?
I have.
And you've had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
No, for the further testimony, this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Kelsey, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been previously marked as Exhibit E1. Can you identify E1 and then very briefly discuss what's contained upon it?
Yes, so Exhibit E1 shows our development plan for case 31476. Shows the Township 150 North, Range 102 West, Sections 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, the 3840 spacing unit, lease line well on the north side of that. Development plan, 5 internal wells in the 1920 acre spacing unit, another lease line between these two DSUs on the 3840 spacing unit between sections 25, 26, 27, 24, 35, and 36. Again, another 5 internal wells in that 1920 spacing unit and a southern lease line well.
Now, when Graham was discussing G1, I had some questions for him about some diagonal wells that were Madison wells. It looks like there are much fewer diagonal wells on this exhibit. Have you taken off all the Madison production or just some of it?
I think they have a filter for activity date. I don't believe that all Madison wells are removed. I believe that's Madison well. So yeah, there's still like a Madison well in section 17 shown. So no, there's still Madison activity on this map.
Okay, and for the most part, the Madison activity is the diagonal wells, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
All right, let's go to the next exhibit, Kelsey, Exhibit E2. Can you tell us what E2 is?
Exhibit E2 is our type wellbore diagram showing an estimation of our laterals for the spacing unit, showing that we'd have a 7-inch by 4.5-inch wellbore construction hanging off our liner hanger right above kickoff point, and having a cemented liner with a wet shoe with the plan to pump out the shoe for the frac, and acknowledging the change in setbacks there.
All right, and E3?
E3 is showing our economics for Middle Bakken 3-mile lateral for this acreage, showing a 22 feet thickness for Middle Bakken here with about a 68% water cut, 850 GOR. For initial production rates around that 925 barrels of oil per day and 44% recovery factor, assuming a $67 per barrel oil price, we're looking at a 2.09 ROI and 48% IRR.
And Exhibit E4, is that a gas capture affidavit that the commission typically requires in these sorts of matters?
Correct.
And in your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, sir.
No further questions of this witness. We do need to call the land witness.
Any questions from the staff?
Kelsey, looking at your Exhibit E1.
Yes.
What is your planned spud date for these 2 pads?
So definitely always in flux based off of the approval of the spacing order. Ogden, can you go ahead and mute? I think we're getting some feedback. Thank you. So we're looking at a Q3 of 2025 pending APD and spacing approval. For the northern section, with the southern DSU sections 34, 35, 36, we would plan to develop that following production results on the northern well.
So you'd be batch drilling the northern pad, and then how long would you evaluate before moving to the southern pad?
First, we would batch drill the northern wells, and then typically we would like to see at least a few months of production, but it would be based off of the drilling schedule, likely at least three to 6 months after IP on northern wells.
And what are your plans for your existing stand-up 1280 wells?
We would frac protect those during frac operations, but we believe we could leave those producing during drilling operations, obviously steering around them, and then expect some communication during completion that we would try to space off those laterals if we're seeing a depletion profile during our drilling operations, and then clean out those wells and return them to production shortly after bringing on the new wells.
Would you be buffering your frac stages around them?
It would depend on what data we see while drilling. If there's an obvious depletion profile along those wells, and then we would try to space a few stages or a few hundred feet off of those laterals. Otherwise, we would try to stimulate as much of the reservoir as we possibly could, with the hope of opening up new rock for both that legacy well and the new well.
And then for your 3840 wells, would those be drilled right down the section line, or would there be some offset?
So the northern well, we've had discussions with Cord that we would stay very close to the section line or on the southern side of that section line, obviously within the allowable corridors, because it's their infill plan, so they're north-south wells on the other side of that section. And then the internal section line right down the middle of these two DSUs would be right about the section line. And then on the southern side, it would likely be just slightly south of the section line because of the legacy or the vintage of some of those Petro Hunt wells and the distance that those first perfs are from the section line. We want to make sure we're able to act correctly, drain that whole corridor and not leave any minerals behind.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Kelsey, on your exhibit E3, you have a recovery factor of 44%. Is that the original oil in place for the entire 1920?
The 20 oil in place, we're showing at just over 6 million, and then a recovery factor of 44%.
That seems like a very high recovery factor.
I think that because our economics are, with the shale plays are heavily weighted on early time production, we're pretty confident on our production forecast to show that this would be an economic development for us, even if we were to risk that oil recovery factor further.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to go back there, Mr.
Yes.
Coleman?
Yep.
Okay.
Ogden, are you there?
Yes, sir.
You got your computer working?
Yes, sir. Ready, and I apologize.
Oh, not a problem. I think we went through your qualifications, and why don't we start with Exhibit L1? I know you spent a little time talking about it, but may be appropriate for you to just go over everything you were going to say about Exhibit L1, first of all.
No problem. L1 is a regional map showing the area of interest there in the red box in McKenzie County, North Dakota. It's in Township 150 North, Range 102 West, and a little bit into Township 149 North, Range 102 West.
And L2.
L2 in the red boxes there shows Savannah's current 1280 spacing unit, and shows in sections 25 and 36, Savannah et al. Has a 96.88% working interest. It's sections 26 and 35, Savannah et al. Has a 100% working interest. Sections 27 and 34, Savannah et al. Has a 72.38% working interest. Then going down into Township 149 North, 102 West, sections 1 and 12, Savannah et al. Has a 100% working interest. And then in sections 3 and 10, Savannah et al. Has a 71.86% working interest.
You don't have your working interest in 2 and 11. What's the reason for that, Ogden?
Because we have no working interest in 211. We traded out of those.
Okay. So if you were to put a working interest, it would be 0.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go on to L3.
Yes, sir. L3 shows in yellow the blue box there. That's 150 Township 150 North, Range 102 West, sections 25, 26, and 27. Shows Savannah et al.'s combined working interest in those 3 sections would be an 85.49% working interest.
Exhibit L4.
L4 shows in the blue box the 3840 spacing. Savannah et al. Working interest is 89.75%.
Exhibit L5.
Exhibit L5 shows in the blue box there sections 34, 35, 36. Savannah et al. Combined working interest in those 3 sections would be 94.01% working interest. And also I'm showing just south there that Savannah et al. Combined working interest in 1, 2, and 3 is 57.29% working interest.
All right. And let's go to L6.
L6 in the blue box in the yellow sections there, that'd be sections 34, 35, 36, then 1, 2, and 3. Savannah et al. Combined working interest is 73.52%.
And L7.
L7 in the blue box there in the yellow squares, sections 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Savannah et al. Combined interest of that spacing would be 44.88% working interest.
Now, in this 3840, you have testified that Savannah will own less than a majority interest. Has or will Savannah have communications and discussions with other working interest owners to determine who should be the operator of a well to be drilled on that 3840?
Yes, sir. As Kelsey mentioned, we have already spoken with Cord and discussed with them placing the well bore just a little south of either on or south of the corridor, and we will work with them on development.
Mr. Examiner, no further questions. Appreciate you allowing us to call witnesses out of order because of technical difficulties. We would offer all of the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Ogden, I'm curious on your exhibit L2. You show us the working interest of Savannah in the southern 1280s, but you don't have an exhibit showing Savannah's interest in the northern 1280s. Is that because they don't have any?
Yes, same thought process there. Since we didn't have any interest in 2 and 11 or 22, 23, and 24, I just didn't put anything.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31476. Now is a good time to take a 10-minute break. We'll go off the record.
Lynn must have sent you an email, huh? Okay.
Okay, we are back on the record. We'll resume with case number 31477. Application of CTI Well Service for an order of the commission transferring following confiscated wells. Placid 28-1V well, Placid 28-2V, located in the section 28, Township 146 North, Range 100 West, and the Sheep Creek Storm 1-1V well, located in section 1, Township 145 North, Range 100 West, Rough Rider and Grassy Butte Fields, respectively, Kenzie County, North Dakota. The CTI Well Service as operator, so said wells might be brought back on production and/or such further and additional relief. This case has been continued to our February hearings. Concludes the hearing for case number 31477. Case number 31478. Application of Devon Energy Williston LLC for an order for the Hart Butte Bakken Pool and/or Twin Buttes Bakken Pool, Dunn County, North Dakota, to create and establish the following. 1. 1280-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 4 and 9, Township 147 North, Range 92 West, authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 7 wells on said proposed 1280-acre spacing unit. And 2. An overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 4, 5, 8, and 9, Township 147 North, Range 92 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units on said proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit, and such further relief as appropriate. This case has been continued to our February hearings. That concludes our hearing for case number 31478. Case number 31479, application of Devon Energy Williston LLC for an order for the Wolf Bay Bakken Pool, Dunn County, North Dakota, to create and establish an overlapping 2880-acre spacing unit comprised of all of sections 31 and 32, the west half of section 33, Township 147 North, Range 92 West, and the west half of section 4 and all of sections 5 and 6, Township 146 North, Range 92 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing space units on said proposed overlapping 28-acre spacing unit and such further relief as appropriate. This case has been continued to our February hearings. That concludes the hearing for case number 31479. Case number 31480, application of Devon Energy Williston LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Buford Bakken Pool and their Briar Creek Bakken Pool, Mackenzie and Williams County, North Dakota, as follows. 1. Create and establish an overlapping 19-20-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 14, 23, and 26, Township 152 North, Range 104 West. Authorize the drilling of a total not to exceed 4 wells with said proposed overlapping 19-20-acre spacing unit. 2. Create and establish an overlapping 38, 40-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 13, 14, 23, 24, 25, and 26, Township 152 North, Range 104 West, authorizing the drilling of a well on or near the section line between existing space units of said proposed overlapping 38, 40-acre spacing unit. And 3, terminate an existing 19-20-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 211 and 14, Township 152 North, Range 104 West, authorizing the drilling of a well on said existing 19-20-acre spacing unit and such other relief. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in case 31480 on behalf of Devon Energy Williston LLC, and I believe you have a list of the witnesses we intend to call.
Yes. Mr. Payne?
Yep.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Jordan, can you tell us by whom you are employed and in what capacity?
I am employed by Devon Energy as a senior staff lineman.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes.
Have you had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Jordan, let's go to the packet of exhibits for case 31480. Let's skip the cover page and go right to Exhibit L1. Please identify L1 and tell us what's contained upon that exhibit.
Exhibit L1 is a regional locator map and field depiction showing the existing 1280-acre spacing unit and proposed 19, 20, and 38 40-acre spacing units in sections 13, 14, 23, 24, 25, and 26 of Township 152 North, Range 104 West in Mackenzie County. The existing spacing units are outlined in red, and the proposed spacing units are outlined in blue.
Okay, and then let's go to L2. And as you did with L1, identify L2 and briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Exhibit L2 is the existing spacing units in a more zoomed-in view. The 1,280 acre spacing units, sections 13 and 14, 23 and 26, 24 and 25, respectively, in Township 152 North, Range 104 West.
And L3A.
Exhibit L3A is the ownership breakdown for the existing 1,280 acre spacing unit in sections 13 and 14 of Township 152 North, Range 104 West, showing Devon Energy Williston LLC with an approximate 68% working interest.
And L3B.
L3B is the ownership breakdown for the existing 1,280 acre spacing unit in sections 24 and 25 of Township 152 North, Range 104 West, where Devon Energy Williston LLC owns an approximate 68% working interest.
L3C.
Exhibit L3C is the ownership breakdown for the existing 1,280 acre spacing unit in sections 23 and 26 of Township 152 North, Range 104 West, where Devon Energy Williston LLC owns an approximate 98% working interest.
L4A.
L4A is the ownership breakdown for the proposed 19-20 acre overlapping spacing unit in sections 14, 23, and 26 of Township 152 North, Range 104 West, where Devon Energy Williston LLC would own an approximate 88% working interest.
L4B.
L4B is the ownership breakdown for the proposed 3840 acre overlapping spacing unit in section 13, 14, 23, 24, 25, and 26 of Township 152 North, Range 104 West, where Devon Energy Williston LLC would own an approximate 78% working interest.
And finally, L5.
L5 is the area development pattern, just giving a better idea of the development pattern for the adjacent DSUs to proposed ones.
No further questions.
Any questions from staff?
Jordan, on L5, you have the pending case 31483,
Correct.
and that is a or 493, excuse me. And
Yes.
that is on the administrative docket for sections 2 and 11,
Correct.
and Devon operates that spacing unit also.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Henry,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Catherine, by whom are you employed?
Devon Energy,
In what capacity?
senior geologist.
And in that capacity, have you had an opportunity to testify before the commission previously and have your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Catherine, let's move to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been previously marked as G1. Can you identify G1 and then briefly describe what's contained upon it?
Yes, G1 is our structure map of the Upper Bakken Shale. I've highlighted our proposed spacing unit in red, and I've also highlighted our type laws. It's the Zimmerman 10-1 well, and the structure map has 25-foot contours.
And then let's go to G2. Same request, identify and briefly discuss.
Yes, this is the type log from the previous exhibit, the Zimmerman 10-1. The Middle Bakken has a thickness of 23 feet, and the wells in question are targeting the Middle Bakken.
Nothing further, this witness.
Any questions from the staff?
Catherine, the existing development in there, is it all Middle Bakken? I'm looking at your G1.
Yes,
So the 1280 wells are Middle Bakken targets?
yes, sir.
Are the diagonal wells also Middle Bakken, or are they a different pool?
Those are Madison wells.
Okay, so the diagonal wells are Madison Pool, and your Bakken development on the 1280s is Middle Bakken targets.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Powell,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Dylan, by whom are you employed?
I'm employed by Devon Energy,
In what capacity?
a senior reservoir engineer.
And in that capacity, have you had an opportunity to testify before the Industrial Commission on previous occasions and have your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Dylan, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet, E1. Tell us what E1 is.
So E1 is showing our 15K development for the proposed 3840 and the two adjacent 1920s in sections 14, 18, 23, 24, 25, and 26. For the 3840, we have a single 15K well drilling on the section line there, and then to the east, we have 5 additional 15K wells being drilled for a total of 6 wells.
Okay, and
We
E3.
also show
I'm
the
sorry.
wells being crossed by the CML. Sorry?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, so go ahead.
Oh, these wells are going to be crossing the CML well. That's all I said.
Okay, E2.
E2 is showing our 15K wellbore schematic. For this well, we're going to have the 15K lateral with a plug-in perf completion of 60 stages.
And E3.
E3 is showing our reservoir and fluid parameters for the Middle Bakken target of the 3840. Our TPD there shown is going to be 10,315 feet. Our bottom hole pressures and temperatures are showed oil gravity, net pay of 23 feet, porosity, and water saturation.
And E4.
E4, the top table is showing our reserve basis for the Middle Bakken wells on a single well basis. Initial rates there showing the 2,000 barrels a day for the peak rate. Our decline speed factor, GORs of 2246. Total EUR for oil coming in at 710, gas at 1595 MMCF, and then EUR on an MBOE basis of 976. And then the bottom table is showing the gross economics. These will run at a $70 oil flat price, gas of $3. Total capital expenditure planned at $10,371,000. Our operating cost and at $15,000 a month. And then the interest assumed for these wells is 100% working interest and 79% NRI. Total MPV there just at $10 million, 400 or under 400,000, 135% IRR, and then under a year payout.
And Exhibit GM1, is that a gas capture affidavit that the commission typically requires in these sorts of matters?
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Examiner, no further questions. Offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Dylan, what's your development timeline for these two pads?
For the 3840 and the 1920s for the spin wells, these wells are going to be spud mid-2025, and then the adjacent 1920 is a little bit farther out, a couple years in our development plan.
And would you be batch drilling both of these when you do move on?
Yes, sir. Each drilling group will be batch drilled. The 6 wells in the Finn and then the adjacent DSU both being batch drilled.
What are your plans for that existing laydown TML?
So that well will be shut in for the drilling and completion operations, and then our current plan is to come back in after the completions are done and clean that well out and bring it back on to produce.
So you'd have to clean that one out after both batches,
Yes, sir.
potentially.
Yeah, and that's why we have a little bit of a delay.
For your western DSU there, that western 1920, is this going to be drilled likely as is, or are there any plans on capturing some of that white space in section 14, turning those wells in?
We might be able to drill some of these wells at slightly angled initial rates in that first 5,000 feet just to try to capture some of that space. But the current plan is pretty close to what we plan on doing.
And for your section line well, would that be drilled right on the section line, or would there be some offset?
There's going to be an offset that will not be a section line well.
For your 3840?
For the 14, 23, and 26, or for the 3840 we're currently talking about.
Sorry, I'm talking about the well that would be drilled on the 3840.
That'll be right on the section line.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, would these be drilled from existing pads? Or new pads?
These are going to be new pads.
It appears on the one in the southwest on E1 that there's a well on that pad already. So that's going to be an adjacent pad or a brand new pad, or?
So for E1, the western wells, those will be drilled off an existing pad, but for the current 3840, those are going to be a new pad on the northeast side of section 18. Or sorry, 13.
The 6-well pad?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And then on E4, GOR is at 2246. Do you guys have a good gas takeaway solution in the area?
Yes, sir. We have a good gas takeaway for the area, and we make sure to stay under our capacity rates to minimize flaring.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31480. Case number 31481, application of Devon Energy Williston LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Camp Bach and Pool, McKenzie County, North Dakota, to create and establish two overlapping 2560-acre spacing units comprised of sections 26, 27, 34, and 35, and sections 27, 28, 33, and 34, Township 152 North, Range 101 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing space units of each proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit, and such other relief. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1865, Bismarck, and I'm appearing in case 31481 on behalf of Devon Energy Williston LLC. We plan on calling the same three witnesses. Oh, excuse me. Thought we were going to call the same three witnesses, but we will have a mix-up of, not a mix-up, but we'll have some additional witnesses here. And I believe you have the names, is that correct?
I do.
Yeah. I apologize for the,
Nope, that's fine.
okay.
Ms. Kramer,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Caitlin, by whom are you employed?
Devon Energy,
What capacity?
senior landman.
And in that capacity, you've testified before the commission previously?
Yes.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
For the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Caitlin, let's go to the packet of exhibits for case 31481. Let's skip the cover page and go to the first exhibit in the packet. It's been previously marked as Exhibit L1. Tell us what that exhibit is and what's contained upon it.
The regional locator map and field depiction proposing the 2560 spacing unit. And you can see that in the green outline for sections 26, 27, 34, and 35, as well as sections 27, 28, 33, and 34, Township 152, Range 101.
So that green area is real light on my exhibit. Is that green area just to the
sorry.
south and west of what says Camp Field and a little bit to the north of Sioux Field and Sakakawea? Did you hear my question?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Let's go to the next exhibit. Maybe that was yes that you heard my question, but we'll accept it as yes that I described it properly.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to L2.
Okay, these are the existing spacing units. The 1280 spacing unit for section 27 and 34 is the Marvin DSU, where Devon has a 94% interest, and sections 26 and 35 is the Forest DSU, where Devon has a 39% interest.
Okay, L3.
This is the proposed spacing unit, which would be the Forest XW DSU, comprising of 26, 27, 34, and 35, where Devon would have a 66% working interest.
L4.
L4 is the other 1280 existing spacing unit for 27 and 34, which is the Marvin DSU, where Devon has a 94% working interest, and section 28 and 33, which is the Ron DSU, where Devon would have the 32% working interest. 52%
Yeah.
working interest, I apologize.
All right, no,
Sorry.
yeah, that's fine, thank you. Let's go to L5.
L5 is the proposed 2560 spacing unit, which comprises of 27, 28, 33, and 34, which would make the Marvin XW DSU, and Devon would have a 78% working interest.
No further questions.
Any questions from the staff? Lawrence, your other two witnesses are still under oath, so you can proceed.
Okay, Catherine, let's go to G1.
G1 is the structure map of the Upper Bakken Shale with 25-foot contours. I've highlighted the proposed unit in red, and I've also highlighted the type log in yellow. It's the Stepanek et al. 1 well.
Okay, you want to briefly describe the structure?
Sure, the structure is dipping to the southeast.
And what are the
Pretty gradational.
what are the contours?
25-foot contours.
Okay, let's go to G2 now.
G2 is the type log from the previous exhibit. It's the Stepanek et al. 1 well. It shows a middle Bakken thickness of 33 feet, and the wells in question are targeting the middle Bakken.
No Three Forks targets with this application, is that correct?
Yes, sir. No three-fork target.
Okay. No further questions of this witness.
Any questions from staff?
Catherine, again, looking at your G1, the diagonal wells on there, those are Madison Pool targeted wells, correct?
Yes, sir. They're Madison.
And all of the existing Bakken development has been Middle Bakken in the 1280s?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
Okay, Dylan, let's go to the next exhibit, E1.
Yes, sir. E1 is showing our development plan for 10K, 10,000 foot wells being drilled from a new pad for the section line well, and then 4 additional wells within 1280.
And E2.
E2 shows our standard well or schematic for our 10,000 foot well. For these wells, we're going to be looking at 10,000 foot total lateral with a 40 stage completion.
And E3.
E3 is showing our reservoir and fluid parameters in the table for the middle Bakken zone of this 2560. The TVD is 10,798 feet. The bottom hole pressure and temperatures are shown. Oil gravity at 40, net pay 33 feet, and then our porosity and water saturation.
And E4.
E4 is showing our single well basis for our reserves for this middle Bakken target. We're looking at an initial rate of 2,500 barrels a day for its peak. Decline at 82%, B factor 1.06, our GOR just over 2,000. Total EUR for oil 493, and then our EUR gas 1026, MBOE is 664. Our gross economics below are also on a single well basis. Oil price is at 70 flat, gas price is at $3 flat. Total capital plan is $8,321,000. Operating costs $15,000 a month. These economics are run at 100% interest, 79% NRI, for a total NPV of $6.7 million, 177% IRR, and just over half a year payoff.
And is Exhibit GM1, is that a gas capture affidavit that the commission typically requires in these sorts of matters?
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, sir.
No further questions. Offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Dylan, I'm looking at your exhibit E1.
Yes, sir.
The top of the sections are cutting off the wellbore trajectories a bit, so that section line well down between 2734, 26, and 35, is that coming from the northwest of 26?
26 and 35.
So your eastern 2560, or your eastern section well there, is that going to be coming from the northwest pad on 26?
Yes, sir, that is correct. That's going to be coming off a different pad.
And how far off the section line well would that be drilled?
That one is at 200 foot to the east.
same question for the western, 2560?
So that is going to be drilled off of a new pad for all 5 wells on kind of the northwestern piece, just to the north of 27. And then that section line well is going to be also 200 foot to the east off the section line.
And is that pad in the northeast of section 27?
No, sir. It is a new pad. To the section of north of 27, kind of in the southwest corner of that section,
Okay.
section 15.
And when are you planning to spud both of these with your infill development?
So the current sections that we're talking about currently are going to be for April timing 2025, and then the later development for the 1280 to the north is a couple of years out in our development plan. Those are going to be drilled off of an existing pad with 2 producing wells. That is in the northeast section of 27 that you see on the map. That's going to be developing the section 15 and north. And then to the west, the 1280 there is going to be drilled later to mid-2026.
Thank you.
Dylan, I just want to confirm what I thought I heard. So the western lease line well, that's going to be a new pad in the southwest quarter of section 22. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And the eastern lease line well, that's going to be off a pad in the northeast, northwest of 26. Is that right?
The eastern side is going to be drilled off of an existing pad in section 27.
Okay, so I'm talking about the lease
No,
line.
26. That was 26. Sorry, that is correct.
So is that
I was off.
is that an existing pad in the northeast, northwest of 26?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31481. Case number 31482. Application of Slauson Exploration Company, Inc. for an order for the Big Bend Bakken Pool and/or partial Bakken Pool, Montreal County, North Dakota as follows. 1. Create and establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit comprised of Section 32, Township 152 North, Range 91 West, and Sections 5, 8, and 17, Township 151 North, Range 91 West, allowing a total not to exceed 7 wells on said proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit. And 2, amending the order number 33303 and any other orders of the commission to reduce the number of wells authorized on an existing overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit comprised of all of Section 32, Township 152 North, Range 91 West, and Sections 5 and 8, Township 151 North, Range 91 West, from a total of 10 horizontal wells to a total not to exceed 2 horizontal wells on said existing overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit, and such further and additional relief. All interested parties, please come forward.
Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1865, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this matter, case 31482, on behalf of Slauson Exploration Company, Inc. We intend to call 3 witnesses in this matter.
Mr. Culbertson,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
James, by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
Slauson Exploration, lineman.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
I have.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
James, let's turn to the packet of exhibits for case 31482. Let's skip the cover page and the table of contents and go to Exhibit 1. What I would like you to do is identify Exhibit 1 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Yeah, Exhibit 1 is a general locator map showing the Big Bend field and the other field boundaries in Montrose County, North Dakota. Highlighted in yellow is the proposed 2560-acre spacing unit comprised of Section 32 of 15291 and Sections 5, 8, and 17 of 15191.
Okay, and then Exhibit 2.
Exhibit 2 is the working interest ownership schedule for the proposed 2560-acre spacing unit showing Slauson with 78.95%, and then a number of other parties are listed with their percentages.
No further questions.
Any questions from the staff?
James, are you familiar with the space units in this area, in particular in section 17?
Yeah, Section 17 isn't currently spaced. The partial field boundary, based on what I understand, was extended to accommodate a EOG section line well spacing unit that would traverse the southern section line of Section 17. But other than that, Section 17 is not currently spaced.
Is it part of a lease line 3840, or at least the east half
Correct.
in section 17, and which would be, well, I guess when we write the order, we'll figure all that out, but it looks like the east half is part of probably a lease line space unit, and the west half
Correct.
is not spaced.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dolzel,
Yeah.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yeah.
Dylan, by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
Slauson Exploration as the geologist.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously? Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, I have, and yes, correct.
Okay. Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Dylan, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet, Exhibit 3. Identify Exhibit 3 and then discuss for us what's contained upon it.
Exhibit 3 is a structure map contoured on the top of the Upper Bakken Shale. The contour interval is 20 feet, and dip is approximately 1 degree to the west-southwest. Wells drilled on this proposed spacing unit can expect a structural drop of about 60 feet and total measured depth over 31,000 feet. Also on here is the location of the type log that'll be on Exhibit 4, and that's symbolized with a red star.
Okay, let's go to Exhibit 4.
Exhibit 4 is the type log. It's a pilot hole from a nearby pilot hole. The two reservoirs that we'll target in our proposed spacing unit are the Middle Bakken and the first bench of the three.
No further questions.
Any questions from the staff? Mr. Miller,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Will, by whom are you employed?
Slauson Exploration
In what capacity?
is a reservoir engineer.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
I have.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
They were.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Will, let's turn to the next exhibit in the packet, Exhibit 5. identify Exhibit 5 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Exhibit 5 is a spacing development map showing the planned wells on this newly proposed overlapping 2,560 acre spacing unit. It shows us drilling 3 wells targeting the Middle Bakken Formation and 4 wells targeting the first bench of the Three Forks. It shows a pad with the surface location in the northwest of the southeast of section 29 there. We would then kick out in all likelihood with a deviated vertical and have our kickoff point and landing just inside the spacing unit, kickoff point in the south portion of section 29, land the curve right across the section line boundary and maximize lateral length of having about 4 miles of lateral. It does show in section 17 some slight lateral turns to the east to try and optimize development of section 17 that currently has no laterals targeting it, because the 2 laterals on the underlying 1920 acre unit stop short there. That's our general development plan for this area, and it shows the existing wells on spacing units that overlap.
Will you, you show a 2-mile lateral on this exhibit, 3 3-mile laterals, and now your proposed 4-mile laterals. Is the different lateral lengths, is that just a function of evolution of the drilling, or was there a reason for drilling the 1 2-miler with the 3-mile laterals?
It's a function of the evolution of drilling this area. The fact that the reservoir directly outside Lakes of Kakawea, when it was first being drilled, we didn't really have the technology or ability to get out that far. Additionally, the areas around this were developed from the kind of point on the shore that was in the closest proximity. So that 2-mile lateral that's shown on the section line between sections 32 and 33 and sections 4 and 5, it abuts to the south there. There are east-west wells that come in section 10 and 9 there. So proceeding farther at the time was not necessarily seen as viable or an option, whereas now we do think we have the technology and ability to get out and drain those undrained resources in that 4th mile and get section 17 developed.
Thank you for that. Let's go to the next exhibit then, Will, Exhibit 6. As you've done, I'm sorry,
Please proceed.
did I miss an exhibit, or, I'm sorry? No, I think Exhibit 6, can you identify that exhibit and discuss what's contained upon it?
Yes. Exhibit 6 is a wellbore schematic showing an example of a planned 4-mile lateral wellbore construction in this area of the Big Bend field. It does show that we would anticipate having a casing design similar to what we have used on many shorter laterals of using 7-inch casing and then a 4.5-inch cemented liner inside of it. That gives us flexibility to implement a plug-and-perk frac design that we think is optimal based on our knowledge at the time we're getting ready to frac that. Based on what we're running on our fracs currently, I anticipate there'd be something in around 70 stages in this 4-mile lateral. We do anticipate it would have a lateral length of about 20,662 feet.
If this application is granted, will this be the first 4-mile lateral that Slauson has drilled?
It will be Slauson's first. We've done some that are on 3.5-mile spacing basis, but this will be the first 4.
Okay, do you anticipate any problems going that additional half-mile?
I mean, there have been some instances where drilling starts to get slow, especially if there's things like cross-flow or different flow regimes, but we have some experience dealing with those in quite a few extended reach laterals, including getting out to 3.5, and I think our drilling team is confident that they can overcome any issues that they might encounter to get to 4.
Okay, let's go to Exhibit 7.
Exhibit 7 are some example wellbore economics of what we expect from 4-mile laterals in this field. It shows that we would anticipate an EUR of about 1.3 million barrels of oil, million barrels of gas with $75 per barrel WTI. That would result in total net sales of $91.5 million, taxes to the state of North Dakota of about $8.8 million, with a well cost of $12.7 million. You're looking at something like a 13-month payout and a 2.82 to 1 PV10 return on investment.
And then Exhibit 8.
Exhibit 8 is a very similar slide showing the expected well economics that we would anticipate for development of the first bench of the Three Forks in this area, showing about 950,000 barrels of oil recoverable at $75 per barrel WTI, about $66.5 million dollars in net sales, about $6.4 million in taxes to the state of North Dakota. Again, the well cost we anticipate for 4 Mile lateral will be about $12.7 million. And for this reservoir, you'd be looking at about a 17-month payout and a 2.16 to 1 PV10 return on investment.
And Exhibit 9 is that gas capture affidavit that the commission typically requires in these sorts of matters.
Yes,
In your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
it will.
No further questions, Mr. Examiner. Offer the exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
William, what's your anticipated spud for this pad?
We think we're going to have a big rig there in about October. We are using a sputter rig. It would be probably towards the end of September. I believe there's still some federal permitting matters to accomplish ahead of that, but we think that we can get those done and get it done in that time frame, so that would be our goal.
Would you be batch drilling all of these?
Yes.
And you spoke to the concern about getting to bottom with the 4 Mile well and having drilled some 3.5 mile wells already. Does putting that turn in the final mile add any additional concern?
Possibly to a minor degree. We have had some experience doing that as well in some of the spacing units immediately to the west of this that drained Section 7, the Three Forks Reservoir. We implemented similar lateral turns. They were turning on an east-west well slightly to the south, I believe. But those were able in 3.5 mile laterals to be accomplished and drilled, and that was even with some, those were Three Forks wells drilling directly underneath some wells in the Middle Bakken zone. And Section 17 is wholly undeveloped. It would not have that challenge, so we think it's something we can get done.
Thank you.
William or Dylan, I don't see a typical reservoir parameters exhibit in the packet. Is that something one of you could prepare and submit?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Lawrence, how long do you think you need to keep the record open?
I think we've been defaulting to the following Thursday, so I'm satisfied with that.
For a week?
Whatever. Yep.
Okay, so we'll keep the record open in this case until January 30th. That concludes our hearing for case number 31482. Case number 31483, in the matter of the petition for a risk penalty of Murphin Drilling Company, Inc., requesting an order authorizing the recovery of a risk penalty from certain non-participating owners as provided by NDCC 380808 in the drilling and completing of the Stefan 1-30H well located in the space unit described as sections 30 and 31, Township 142 North, Range 97 West, Wilman, Bach, and Pool, Dunn County, North Dakota, and such other relief as is appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in case 41483 on behalf of Murphin Drilling Company, Inc. As you noted, Mr. Examiner, this is a request for a risk penalty. What we have done is shortly after filing the application, we also filed a motion with the commission requesting that this matter be considered under 430203, 88.1, I believe. And we've done that before, one or two times, so we're requesting the same relief here.
Any comments from the staff?
So Lawrence, the documents you filed, were they in affidavit form?
Well, we filed the affidavits with an application, and then subsequent to that, we filed a motion to ask that it be treated under 88.1, and 430203 01 allows for the commission to change the general rules for specific things. So that's really what I've requested. We were, as you know, Mr. Bohr, we were submitting these things under 88.1, but there wasn't a provision in the rule that allowed for it. And so that we don't have to call witnesses and waste a lot of the commission's time, we're submitting them like we had done before, but then filing a motion that the commission basically treat them under 88.1. I guess I'm hopeful the next time the commission goes through a rulemaking that we add risk penalties to the 88.1 provision.
Yeah, I agree. It's, you know, whether it's handled under 88 or like 88.1 is really the goal here. And I agree that a rulemaking would probably be appropriate for non-contested, obviously.
Exactly,
Yeah,
which
that-
88.1 contemplates.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. That concludes our hearing for case number 31483. Case number 31484, in the matter of this petition for risk penalty of Murphin Drilling Company, Inc., requesting an order authorizing the recovery of a risk penalty from certain non-participating owners as provided by NDCC 380808 in the drilling and completion of the Stefan 1-25 well located in the space unit described as sections 25 and 36, Township 142 North, Range 98 West, Snowbank Pool, Billings, in Dunn Counties, North Dakota, such other relief as is appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1865, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this matter, case 31484 on behalf of Murphin Drilling Company, Inc. Once again, this is a risk penalty matter, and with a motion that was filed subsequent to the application, we're requesting that this matter be treated as if it were a 88.1 matter.
And I'll refer back to the previous case. That request is granted.
Exactly.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31484. Case number 31485, application of Silver Hill Energy Operating LLC for an order allowing the Tucson West 158-94-26-35-1 MBH well located in section 23, Township 158 North, Range 94 West, Montreal County, North Dakota, with a portion of the heel of the lateral potentially not completely isolated by cement to be completed and to produce as an exception to the applicable field rules, permit conditions, or other well location restriction, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
One moment, please. At the tone, say your name, and then press the pound or hash key.
Lawrence Bender. Hello.
Lawrence Bender.
Good. Kyle, are you there?
Yes, sir.
And Jason, we have you on as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just a moment, I have to make my appearance, and then we'll be ready to start.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in case number 31485 on behalf of Silver Hill Energy Operating LLC.
Mr. Boss,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Kyle, by whom are you employed?
Silver Hill Energy Partners.
And in what capacity?
I am a senior landman heading up the development of our Bakken asset.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
No, sir, I have not.
What I would like you to do, Kyle, is briefly provide the hearing officer and the commission staff a bit about your educational background and work experience.
Okay, I graduated from University of Texas in Austin in 2007. Got my start in Fort Worth in about 2008, April 2008, and have been working on land ever since. So a little over 16 years of experience. Went in-house in 2014, and have been working for operators, the development side since then.
Okay, and how long have you, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, apologize.
Sorry, yeah, and I was going to say, I've been with Silver Hill a little over 10 months now.
And Kyle, in preparation for today's hearing, have you made a thorough study and review of the relevant land matters concerning this request in case 31485?
Yes, sir.
And have you prepared or had prepared under your control and supervision some exhibits you intend to sponsor?
Yes, sir, we have.
And have you satisfied yourself as to the accuracy of those exhibits?
Yes, sir.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Kyle, let's go to the packet of exhibits, and let's skip the cover page and go to Exhibit L1. Can you identify Exhibit L1 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it?
Yes, sir. This is just a location map. It's showing kind of a zoom out of North Dakota with Montrell zooming into Township 158, Range 94 West, and further depicting the Tucson unit that we're discussing today.
And
The red circle on the map is kind of showing the area where the subject well is located, being the Tucson West 158 94 26-35 1 MVH.
okay, then let's go to L2.
So this is kind of a offset operator map. This is depicting a portion of Township 158 North 94 West. You'll see the yellow is Silver Hills leasehold ownership, and the light blue is Petra Hunt's. The DSU the subject DSU is the Tucson, being section 26 and 35 that have the hatch marks around it. Directly north of that is Petra Hunt's DSU, the Johnson Spacing Unit, covering section 14 and 23. We own no interest in that DSU to the north, and then in the DSU to the south, being the Tucson, we have 54.6% working interest.
No further questions.
Any questions from the staff?
Thank
Mr. Gorduck,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Jason, by whom are you employed?
Silver Hill Energy Operating.
In what capacity?
I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations and Drilling.
And are you an engineer by education and training?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and as an engineer, have you testified before the commission previously and had your qualifications accepted as an expert?
No, I have not.
What I would like you to do, Jason, as Kyle did, is briefly highlight for the examiner and the commission staff your educational background and work experience.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a 2002 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. Following graduation, served as an engineer officer 5 years in the Army. One of those deployed to Iraq as an engineer officer. After exiting the military, I started on with a public operator, learning operations, drilling first, and really all the disciplines, but mostly drilling. Worked with several public operators, and then joined Silver Hill in 2012 as the Vice President of Drilling, and I've been with Silver Hill since that time.
Well, thank you, Jason, for your service in the military. Certainly appreciate that. Have you prepared or had prepared under your control and supervision some exhibits that you intend to sponsor?
Yes.
Have you satisfied yourself as to the accuracy of those exhibits?
Yes.
Would offer the further testimony of this witness out of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Jason, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been marked as Exhibit E1. Can you tell us what E1 is?
Yes. So E1 is a cross-section basically showing the bottom of the curve for the wellbore. The black line is the planned line, and the red line is the actual line that was drilled. What the callouts show you here is the 7-inch casing shoe that was set at 99.72, which is 19 feet short of the 150-foot hard line established. After that point, the first perforation point was 4 feet short of hard line at 99.87. So you can see those different points viewing it from the side from that view.
Okay, and E2?
E2 is basically a bird's eye view looking straight down from above, so you can get an idea of where the wellbore is in position you can see it was an off section well. We drilled into the section, landed the well, and then drilled the lateral. You can also see other wells in the area, and the points are also noted on there where the casing was set, where the hard line and section lines are located. On the bottom of the slide, the other wells in the area that Petrohunt owns, the Johnson 1H and 2H are shown with their vintage. The closest well to us, the Johnson 1H, is the 2011 vintage. That's cumed over 180,000 barrels of oil. The well in that unit to the east of that, the Johnson 2H, is a little newer. It's a 2022 vintage. It's already cumed around 170,000 barrels of oil. Also noted are the take points of those laterals, the first take points, which is gives you an idea of the vertical distance away from our first take point. I believe the western one vertical distance is about 560 feet, and the other one about 480 feet. It's vertical distance.
All right, then let's go to Exhibit E3.
So E3 is the notification that we received from Todd Holweger that we had notifying us we had a legal location and the 7-inch was set short of the 150-foot line. Immediately after talking with Todd, we had started this process to get a case on the docket and then move forward with Mr. Bender on this process.
So when you were advised of the error that exists in this well, the well was already drilled and completed, is that correct?
Yes, it was already producing. We had asked what the guidance was from Mr. Holweger. He had said to continue producing the well and to get on the docket as soon as possible.
Okay. Let's go on then to Exhibit E4, and you have that labeled as what happened. Why don't you tell us, in your opinion, why you have the problem that you have that you're trying to get resolved with the commission today?
Yes, so this happened. This was our first set of wells that we took over operations from Liberty Resources. Not an excuse, but just part of where we were at in history there. So we had just taken over the operations on these. One of the previous wells had a lateral that had landed, had trouble getting its curves built, and barely landed in the target. So for this well, we had an increase in motor bend, which gives you better dog legs to build your curves. With that increase, we did see achieved the desired higher dog leg. It actually yielded a little bit more than what we had planned, and so the curve got to the 7-inch set point early, basically ahead of where it was on the plan. Again, you could see that back on the red line of the original slide I talked about. That was not called at the time, and the 7-inch casing was run, cemented, proper cement job was completed, cement was circulated to surface. The completion team then came in as a standard. They go at least 15 feet out of the shoe for their first perf to give some distance from the shoe. They completed it the same way they had been, and that 15 feet ended up with the first perf being 4 feet short of the hard line.
Okay. So, you've explained how, Silver Hill found out about the problem. You've talked about how the problem occurred. Let's talk about, mitigating steps. Let's go to Exhibit E5.
Yes, sir. So we've been back through kind of all of our steps within operations to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future, and it is on the radar of everyone, on the rig and in the office. All directional plans we have will now clearly annotate that hard line that needs to be crossed. Rig supervisors, directional drillers, and the superintendent all confirm MWD surveys across that line prior to running 7-inch casing. We've also added a 20-foot safety factor to the end of that casing set point over the line. And completions will also be before going in and perfing, double checking with surveys, and making sure there are no perfs outside of that 150-foot line. Some of the that's our basic steps there, sir.
Okay. And you're here today requesting an exception from the commission, having not met the appropriate setbacks. Did Silver Hill give any consideration to other options that it could, or other operations it could take to resolve this problem without an exception from the commission?
Yes, sir. We went through, tried to, any realistic way to reconcile the situation. One being a perf and squeeze, another one being running a patch. Ultimately, both operations are risky, being it's the first perf in the wellbore, and if something goes wrong, you can ultimately lose the wellbore. This well, the lateral has a PV10 value of $13.7 million. The value of that 4 feet, which is 0.04% of the lateral, is approximately $53,000. In our opinion, the risk to the well is not worth that that portion of the lateral.
Okay. I believe the land, I'm sorry, did I cut you off? I didn't mean to.
No, that was all.
Okay. And I know the land witness testified that Petro Hunt operates some wells to the north of your Tucson well. To your knowledge, has Petro Hunt opposed the application and the request for an exception location that is before the commission today by Silver Hill?
No, sir.
Okay. And just maybe some summary questions that may be helpful to the commission staff. So Silver Hill, in drilling and completing the Tucson well, inadvertently set the 7-inch intermediate casing 19 feet short of the hard line. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you have Silver Hill, in completing the well, has perforated the well 4 feet short of the hard line. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I think you just testified that your other options to solve this problem would be risky and expensive. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, they would. They would be kind of $300,000 to $500,000 range.
Okay, so Silver Hill's request in this matter then is allowing the Tucson well to produce at its maximum efficient rate with the 7-inch intermediate casing set 19 feet too close to the hard line, and the perforation being 4 feet too close to the hard line. Is that an accurate request?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Examiner, I don't have any more questions. We would offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Jason, when you drilled the intermediate hole, what was the TD of that hole?
I do not have that right in front of me. To be honest with you, it's usually, we usually have 30 plus feet, depending on your casing, spacing coming out the bottom. So rat hole, available. Again, apologize, I don't have the drilling report sitting right here to know that depth.
I'll see if I can find that information in our records. If not, I'll reach out to Lawrence. This well was drilled from outside the space unit, is that correct?
Yes.
And I assume, well, I guess you can tell me, the drilling engineers and the directional drilling people, do they understand what setbacks mean?
Yes. Yeah, yes.
Because I would assume if you're drilling from outside the space unit, I know I would be very concerned that we get to a legal location when we get inside the spacing unit.
Yes, sir. I think the confusion, or, again, we're taking full responsibility for this, but I think the confusion came with, the engineers that we put onto the project have been working in other states, and the intermediate shoe is never the issue. It's always first perf, which admittedly we also messed that up. I'm coming with hat in hand here. We admit we screwed it up. The 7-inch over the 150 line, it wasn't on the radar until, at a later point that was a must, and ever since then that's been highly emphasized across the team. It's fixed. It will be fixed. It wasn't again, not making excuses. It was a little bit of lack of knowledge and not lack of competence, for sure.
And you understand, I hope other people do, that your minimum footages are called out in the permit for being at a legal location?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, I believe you indicated that both the 7-inch and the liner cement jobs kind of went as planned?
Correct.
Okay. We do have a CBL that was run on the 7-inch down to about probably the kickoff point or the liner top. So we can validate that portion of the cement, but would you be able to submit the cement job reports for both the 7-inch cement job and the 4.5-inch cement job?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please do that.
Who would I submit those to? Is that through Mr. Bender or through Mr. Bender, or is that straight to your department?
Yeah, go ahead and send them through Lawrence for part of the case in this case.
Okay.
Jason, have you guys had, what's the current status of the well?
Well, still currently producing.
Okay. And then have you guys had conversations with Petro Hunt or have any type of a letter agreement that you could provide to the commission that they're okay with what you've done here?
Not to my knowledge.
I will point out, Mr. Director, that in conjunction with this application, because it is an exception location, we did provide notice to all of the working interest owners in the Petro Hunt spacing unit. Petro Hunt was part of that, and I haven't received anything, and I think the witness also testified, so they're certainly aware of it.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, Lawrence, we'll keep the record open till January 30th.
Yep, that works.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31485. Case number 31317, application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an emergency order creating a 1280-acre drilling unit comprised of sections 30 and 31, Township 162 North, Range 95 West, Divide County, North Dakota, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well within said unit, and such other and further relief. Case has been continued to our February hearings. That concludes the hearing for case number 31317. Case number 31353, application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order for the Ranch Creek, Bakken Pool, McKenzie County, North Dakota, to create and establish an overlapping 1920-acre space unit comprised of sections 17, 20, and 29, Township 149 North, Range 98 West, Township 146 North, Range 98 West, authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 4 horizontal wells on said proposed overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit, and such further relief as appropriate. Case has been continued to our February hearings. That concludes our hearing for case number 31353. Case number 31486. In the matter of a hearing called on a motion of the commission to consider the temporary spacing to develop an oil and/or gas pool discovered by the Coon Harkins 1-26 well located in the northwest southeast section 26, Township 140 North, Range 104 West, Golden Valley County, North Dakota, to find the field limits and enact such special field rules as may be necessary. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in case 31486 on behalf of WGO Resources LLC. At this time, we respectfully request that cases 31486 and 31414 be combined and consolidated for purposes of hearing. We plan on calling 3 witnesses, and we have 1 set of exhibits, and we can expedite the hearing process if they're combined.
Any objection from the staff? Yep, your request is granted. I'll read in case number 31414 then. In the matter of hearing called on a motion of the commission to consider the temporary spacing to develop an oil and/or gas pool discovered by the Coon Harkins 1-35 well located in the southeast-southwest quarter, section 35, Township 140 North, Range 104 West, Golden Valley County, North Dakota, to find the field limits and enact such special field rules as may be necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. And I might, just as an introductory matter, I might point out that the testimony is going to reveal that the Coon Harkins 1-26 well, which is the matter for temporary spacing under case 31486, is very close in proximity to the Coon Harkins 1-35 well. So we're going to focus on temporary spacing for the Coon Harkins 1-26 well, but create a field boundary or suggest a field boundary that would be of such size that it would bring in the Coon Harkins 1-35 well, as well as a future well that is planned relatively soon, if these wells continue to produce as they are, and then possibly further development down the road. So 3 witnesses, I don't recall, you haven't sworn anybody yet, have you?
Nope.
Okay.
Mr. Moritz,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Richard, by whom are you employed?
Wolverine Gas and Oil Corporation.
Okay. And tell us how Wolverine is affiliated with WGO Resources LLC.
WGO Resources is operating for us in North Dakota and is an entity.
Okay. And have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes,
In fact, you testified when these drilling units that are now the subject of temporary spacing were before the commission. Is that correct?
correct.
And you testified as an expert in the area of petroleum land management, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. We'd offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Richard, let's go to the packet of exhibits for case 31486 and 31414. Let's skip the cover page and let's skip that divider page, I'll call it. It's labeled land exhibits, and go right to exhibit number 1. And what I would like you to do, Richard, is identify exhibit 1 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Yes. Exhibit 1 is a regional locator map. It highlights the area of North Dakota, including Billings, Golden Valley, and portions of Slope and McKenzie counties. And it also includes Webo and Richland counties in Montana. It provides a visual overview of WGO's operation in the green box relative to other fields and demonstrates proximity to the newly discovered field. Further, it highlights county boundaries and sections relevant to the drilling unit and demonstrates that the area is some distance from the other production.
And the fact that it's some distance from other production is going to be important, is it not, when we talk about gas gathering, is that correct?
That is correct.
Or maybe I should say lack of gas gathering.
Correct.
Okay, let's go to the next exhibit then, Richard, Exhibit 2. Can you tell us what that is, and then once again briefly describe what's contained upon it?
Yes, it illustrates the size and shape of existing units. Exhibit 2 details the 3 drilling units established by the Commission under Order Number 33738 in Case Number 31052, dated August 12, 2024. The first drilling unit is the Coon Harkins 126, described as the east half of Section 26, Town 140 North, 104 West. Second drilling unit is the Coon Harkins 135, described as southwest of Section 35, Town 140 North, 104 West, and the northwest of Section 2, Town 139 North, 104 West. The third drilling unit is the Mo 134, described as the west half of Section 34, Town 140 North, 104 West. It shows the existing drilling units and WGO spacing request of one well per 320 acres with a minimum setback of 660 feet from unit boundaries. It also shows 4 potential drilling units.
Okay, and
We could,
go ahead, Richard, I interrupted you, go ahead.
okay, and further, it can justify the spacing based on land ownership. The current and future drilling of the Coon Harkins 126 well and the Coon Harkins 135 well are drilled and producing, and the Mo 134 well is proposed to be drilled dependent upon production of the Coon Harkins 126 and Coon Harkins 135.
Okay, and you indicated that the likely request, or the request, is going to be for 660-foot setbacks from the 320-acre spacing unit boundaries. Do the wells that have been drilled and what you're proposing to drill at this time, the 2 Coon Harkins well and the Mo well, would they meet that setback requirement?
Yes, they do.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for this witness.
Any questions from the staff? Ms. Hartwick,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Emily, by whom are you employed,
Wolverine Gas and Oil Corporation,
and what capacity?
Manager of Geology.
And you've testified before the commission previously and had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that was done at the same hearing that Richard testified to, where your company came in and requested these 3 drilling units, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Emily, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet. I'm searching here for the exhibit number, Exhibit 3. Can you identify Exhibit 3 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it?
Yes. So Exhibit 3 shows a post-drill structure map of the subsea top of the Red River D relative to the two Coons-Harkins wells, which have been completed and are productive, and the proposed spacing units relative to very subtle structural noses. Our drilling results support our interpretation that these hydrocarbon accumulations are compartmentalized, such that they are a collection of similar but separate combination structural and stratigraphic traps in the Red River D. We recommend that they be included within one field outline, which will be shown on a following exhibit, due to their proximity and their similarity. The thickness of the Red River D is consistently approximately 80 feet across this map area.
Okay, and then let's go to Exhibit 4. I think you mentioned what this is, so why don't you just discuss what's contained upon this exhibit?
Yeah, so this exhibit shows the proposed outline for the Sentinel Butte field with the blue dashed line, which includes Township 140 North, Range 104 West, Sections 26, 34, and 35, and the north half of Section 2 of Township 139 North, Range 104 West. The pool for the Sentinel Butte field is the Red River, and that is defined as the stratigraphy below the base of the Stony Mountain Formation to above the top of the Rough Rock Formation, which I will also show on an upcoming exhibit in cross-section form. The map on this exhibit shows the three spacing units, each 320 acres in size, in red for the two Coons-Harkins wells and the Mo 134 permit, all within this proposed field outline. Again, these productive features are geologically similar, and due to their proximity, we feel it's reasonable to include them within one field boundary. This field boundary and the proposed spacing of other potential future units within it, previously described by Richard on Exhibit 2, would also allow for future wells to be drilled on 320s should the production quality from the Coon-Harkins wells merit such development.
And you briefly discussed the Red River Pool. That is what your request would be for the definition in the temporary spacing order, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And is that similar, the stratigraphic limit that you're suggesting be utilized for this newly discovered field, is that similar to other Red River pools in the area?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let's go to Exhibit 5. And once again, you touched on that in your previous testimony. Why don't you go into further detail as to what the purpose of Exhibit 5 is?
Yep. So this exhibit illustrates the stratigraphic definition of that proposed pool of the Red River with the cross-section A to A prime that runs from the Olstad Pearl 1 well that is just to the west of the proposed field area to the Coon-Harkins 135. The base of the Stony Mountain and the top of the Rough Rock are shown in the Olstad Pearl, which was drilled deep enough to show that top of the Rough Rock. The correlation of the stratigraphic markers within the Red River are also shown, and specifically the top and the base of the Red River D, which we are focused on, is shown in the purple. Now the green porosity curves that are shown in the far right track for each well display the differences in the Red River from the Olstad Pearl, which was a dry hole, which had no reservoir development, compared to the Coon-Harkins 135, which was dolomitized and porous in the Red River D. On the Coon-Harkins 135 well, you can see with the green box, that illustrates the gross perforation interval within the Red River D in the Coon-Harkins 135, and we'll look at that in a little more detail on the following exhibit.
And those perfs that you show in the Kuhn Harkins 1-35, well, they fall within your proposed definition of the stratigraphic limits of the pool, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, let's go on then to Exhibit 6.
Okay, so Exhibit 6 shows a petrophysical summary for the Kuhn Harkins 135, and it's focusing on the D specifically. It illustrates our net pay with a green flag in the far left track, and that is defined by a 6% porosity and a 48% water saturation cutoff. So in the Kuhn Harkins 135, we calculate 20 feet of net pay with an average porosity of 12% and an average net water saturation of 34%. The discrete perforation intervals within that calculated pay are shown with the red symbols that are posted in that depth track with the little dots inside them. These net pay values that I referenced are going to show up again is the volumetric basis for some engineering testimony later on.
I don't have any other questions for Emily.
Any questions from the staff?
Emily, can you remind me, I guess for this case, the methodology that you utilized when identifying these potential the targets that you've drilled in these drilling units?
Yeah, so we are using 3D seismic, and we are mapping all of the attributes that we can using that data, and that helps to show the combination structural and stratigraphic trapping situation that we have going on.
Okay. And so at this time, it's just the three likely spacing or drilling units that you're targeting? You haven't identified additional ones in the field area?
That's correct. At this time, it is these three wells that we would primarily focus on. Yes.
Okay. Probably getting a little ahead of things, but are you also looking at areas outside the field for additional targets in a similar nature? Or the proposed field, I should say?
We do have a program that we are engaged in, yes.
Okay. The when drilling the two additional wells, or the two wells that you've drilled so far, the 135 and the 126, did you also evaluate the other intervals within the Red River, A, B, C, on your way through?
Yes, we did. Yep, we did pay attention to that.
Okay. Were there any identified hydrocarbons or potential reservoirs identified?
Yes, it does appear that in the 126, we may have some B development, and in the 135, we may have some C development, but it was minor in its show profile. It did not warrant a test with the initial completion. So it's something that we will pay attention to in the future. It's certainly covered by the pool definition that we're asking for. But yeah, but it's a note in the well file at this time, but they were minor shows compared to the D.
Okay, it does help justify the inclusion of all that reservoir within the pool. It's common to include all of it within the Red River pool, but it helps to know that there's other hydrocarbons potentially up there. Your exhibit 6 for the 135. Do you have a similar exhibit, or do you have a similar depiction for the 126 well?
We do. We were treating that well as still on confidential status, so we were just focusing on the 135 for the purposes of this hearing, but I do have that available.
So based on what you just said, I'm going to assume you prefer to not submit something on the 126 at this time.
That would be correct.
It's probably not necessary. Is more of a point of interest and comparison piece, so.
Yep, understood.
Okay, thank you.
mentioned that you determined the structural and porosity trapping through 3D seismic. Did you do any net pay contouring based on that 3D seismic to give us a better idea of what these structures look like in this area without providing the seismic?
I do not specifically have that mapping product available at this time. Nope, I have not created a map that would like contour net pay. Nope.
Okay, but based on what you're evaluating from the 3D seismic, it appears that you have rectangular depositions, or what would that end up looking like here?
Oh, right. So in terms of the underlayment of each of these units, in terms of what we're seeing from seismic anomalies indicating the porosity, these 320-acre units average around 70% underlain. So they are, filling the areas of the units that we have laid out, and that gives you a rough sense for their general shape. Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Ritzema,
Yeah, yes,
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Jordan, by whom are you employed?
Wolverine Gas and Oil Corporation,
In what capacity?
production engineer.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes,
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Jordan, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been previously marked as Exhibit 7. There's a lot of information on that. Why don't you hit the more relevant portions in terms of this temporary spacing matter?
Sure. So this exhibit presents the requested data by the commission for the Kuhn-Harkins 1-35 well, which is the first well produced in the proposed field outline. This well was spud on September 5th of last year, completed on October 10th, and we had first production December 14th of 2024, last year. I'll briefly talk through each section, just hitting on the highlights. So starting with the reservoir description, the formation is the Red River D. It's a dolomite. The top of the Red River D is 11,878 feet. We had a net thickness of 20 feet, and it's a solution gas drive reservoir. Rock properties are similar, same as Emily presented, and measured original bottom hole pressure was 5,377 pounds. Going down to the fluid disposition, the oil and water are hauled, and gas is currently being flared. Moving to the reservoir fluid properties, it's a 38.5 degree gravity oil. The gas quality is 1590 BTU. The GOR at this point, or to this point, is 610. And formation water salinity is around, or is 202,000 milligrams per liter. And then going to performance and volumetrics, we've produced a little more than 5,200 barrels of oil through January 14th, 3,000 MCF of gas, and about 1,600 barrels of water. So when we take those petrophysics parameters and calculated OOIP, there's approximately 1.6 million barrels in place. And using a recovery factor of 18%, we calculate an estimated ultimate recovery of 305,000 barrels. The actual wellbore construction is presented there. I'm not going to talk through that. We are producing the well on rod pump. And then using that estimated ultimate recovery of 5,000 barrels and putting that into our economics. Assuming a investment of $4.3 million total, we calculate approximately a 47% rate of return, 1.9-year payout, and a return on investment of 2.9.
Jordan, one question on the oil. You indicate it's being hauled. Who's purchasing the oil?
Marathon.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next exhibit, Exhibit 8. And as you've done with the previous exhibits thus far, identify Exhibit 8 and then discuss the importance of it. And this is an important exhibit, so take your time on this one.
Sure. So this exhibit is titled the Gas Infrastructure Connect Map. It's in respect to gas flaring considerations for this proposed field. What you're looking at with the red dashed line is a non-surveyed route of a proposed gas line to the nearest gas infrastructure. So I would like to note that this is non-surveyed, the direct line route, and it measures approximately 16 miles. The cost estimate for this line is the primary component of the capital cost presented on the next exhibit.
Okay, let's go to the next exhibit, Exhibit 9.
So these are gas flare exemption data requirements, again, in association with gas flaring consideration. And I'll talk through this by number. So presented in number 1, we have the assumed gas price for gas sales, which is $4.47. This does include or account for the value of the NGLs within that fixed price. Going to number 2, the capital cost presented to sell gas is $11.75 million. So this includes the cost to run the gas gathering line and facility modifications needed to move the gas to sales. The line cost estimate was compiled internally with input from ONEOK based on recent industry averages for rural rough terrain install. Item 3 presents the current gas rate for the Kuhn Harkins 1-35 well, which is 106 MCF per day. And item 4 presents the estimated gas reserves available for sale, which is 183 million cubic feet. So the calculated net revenue undiscounted from this well sale is $475,000, which leaves a net cash flow of negative $11.275 million. The conclusion is that the project is not economic at this time, and it would take approximately 25 times the volume or wells based on this first well to begin considering this project economic.
Okay, and then the next exhibit, Exhibit 10, that is a oil analysis, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the exhibit after that, that's a gas analysis, and that's a 2-page exhibit, is that correct?
That is correct.
And Exhibit 12 is a water analysis, is that correct?
That's correct.
And with respect to the gas analysis, is the gas sweet or sour?
The gas is sweet on this well.
Okay. And let's go to the last exhibit then, Exhibit 13, and give us your conclusions and recommendations for temporary spacing in this newly discovered pool.
Sure. The conclusions are that the Kuhn Harkins 126 well is a producer of oil and gas from the Red River D formation. The Kuhn Harkins 1-35 well is a producer of oil and gas from the Red River D formation. At the present time, WGO plans for further production from the Kuhn Harkins 126 and 135 well. Based upon that production, we will evaluate if the Mo 1-34 well should be drilled and completed. Production from the 3 wells referenced will determine if additional development should take place. And the field outline is as follows. The wells are to be located not less than 660 feet to the spacing unit boundary. Also, the wells should be allowed to produce at unrestricted rates and flare the gas. And then we've also presented the established spacing units, which are on 320s, which are described as follows on Exhibit 13.
And just one clarification, says field outline as follows. Actually, Emily presented what the field outline should be in one of her geologic exhibits. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. In your opinion, will the temporary spacing that WGO Resources has recommended for this newly discovered pool, will it prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
And is it also WGO's request that the request for temporary spacing at 320 acres also include the standard field rules that typically come along with temporary 320-acre spacing for Red River pools?
Yes.
Mr. Examiner, that's all the questions I have. We'd offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions for the staff?
Jordan, based on your initial production, have you done any drainage radius calculations?
We have not.
But based on 3D seismic, you believe drainage would be confined to these 320s?
We do.
Thanks.
Jordan, on Exhibit 8.
Did you say 8?
8, yes.
Thank you.
Is there any gas gathering in the Knutson field?
Trying to locate that.
That's the field directly to the east, slightly north.
I can't speak to that specifically. I do have a note when corresponding with 10. We did consider going east, and it was further, I believe, 26 miles to their nearest gas gathering infrastructure.
Yeah, that gas gathering, that field may be localized, I don't remember. And the wells to the north along that route, I assume even when considering those wells, there's not enough gas to justify a gas line?
I haven't explicitly looked at that. I haven't calculated that, but based on them being depletion drive reservoirs and being familiar with them as analog, I doubt there is. They're all very low gas producers at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I think this question's for Jordan. I'm on a couple different pages, your gas analysis page and then Exhibit 9. And I believe your gas analysis is Exhibit 11. And Exhibit 7. The gas quality BTU is 1590, so that's very, very rich. Have you guys considered or thought about any type of a stripping operation, localized stripping operation for that gas? And
yes.
Have you ran economics surrounding that?
So I haven't run specific economics on this project, but we did have a similar project in a different state in the last 2 years. And looking at flat gas production, we needed about 950 MCF a day to make a $1.3 million investment economic. So with that in mind, we're far from just stripping liquid being economic, and that's something we'll continue to monitor.
Was that example from the other state of a similar gas quality? I mean, on exhibit 11, you have 23% ethane. That's a challenge. 13% propane, and then obviously some butanes. So I guess
Yeah, going off memory, we were around 1,400 BTU, so slightly less rich, but not drastically different.
And then have you researched just is there any local, it's pretty remote, but is there any local use of the gas in the area that you've came up with?
We're not aware of any.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearings for case number 31486, 31414. Case number 31300, application of Formentera Operations LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Bluffton Bakken Pool, Divide County, North Dakota, to create and establish an overlapping 1920 acre spacing unit comprised of sections 21, 28, and 33, Township 162 North, Range 97 West, authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 8 horizontal wells on said proposed overlapping 1920 acre spacing unit and/or such further relief. This case has been continued to our February hearings. That concludes the hearing for case number 31300. Case number 31301, application of Stevens Williston LLC, doing business as SEG Williston LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Bluffton Bakken Pool, Divide County, North Dakota, to establish an overlapping 1920 acre stand-up spacing unit comprised of all of sections 9, 16, and 21, Township 162 North, Range 97 West, and authorizing the drilling, completion, and production of a total not to exceed 8 horizontal wells on such proposed spacing unit and such other relief as appropriate. This case has been continued to our February hearings. That concludes the hearing for case number 31301. Case number 31154, application of Sustainable Projects Group, Inc. for an order pursuant to NDAC 43020351 at SEC, authorizing the construction of a treating plant to be located in the southeast quarter of Section 21, Township 149 North, Range 98 West, Mackenzie County, North Dakota, and such other relief as is appropriate. This case has been continued to our February hearings. That concludes the hearing for case number 31154. Now we will jump back to case number 31475. Application of Wesco Operating, Inc. for an order amending the field rules for the Bicentennial Red River Pool, Mackenzie County, North Dakota, so as to create and establish a 320 acre spacing unit comprised of the southeast quarter of Section 36, Township 146 North, Range 104 West, and the northeast quarter of Section 1, Township 145 North, Range 104 West, authorizing the drilling of a well on said proposed 320 acre spacing unit and/or such further relief. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, appearing in this matter, case 31475 on behalf of Wesco Operating, Inc. We plan on calling 3 witnesses who will be appearing by telephone. I believe they're on the phone now. You there, Steve?
Yes, I am.
Perfect.
Okay, Mr. Degenfelder,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Steve, by whom are you employed?
Mr. Chairman, my name's Steve Degenfelder. I'm employed by Kirkwood Oil and Gas, Casper, Wyoming, 120 South Durban, Casper, Wyoming 82601.
In what capacity are you employed there?
I'm the land manager.
Okay. And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes, I have.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, they were.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Steve, let's go to the packet of exhibits for this case, and I'm going to direct your attention to what's been previously marked as, I believe, yes, Exhibit 1. Can you,
Yes.
can you tell me what Exhibit 1 is, and then briefly describe what's contained upon it?
Sure. Exhibit 1, Mr. Chairman, is a depiction of the land makeup of the proposed drilling and spacing unit. It depicts the mineral ownership in each of the quarter sections, and then also to the right of the proposed DSU is the ownership, working interest ownership breakdown of the combined 320-acre DSU.
And you also have the mineral ownership on your proposed 320 as well, is that correct?
That's correct. The mineral ownership is on the top of the quarter section, and the respective lease is depicted on the bottom of each quarter section.
That's all the questions I have for Steve.
Any questions from the staff?
Steve, just so I'm clear, the section 36 is state tract?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, on Exhibit 1, what's the significance of that red outline labeled FRBU?
Yes, sir, that's the Flat Rock B unit.
Is it a spacing unit? Is it a federal exploratory unit? What is it?
Mr. Chairman, it's a federal exploratory unit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bingle Davis,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Mike, would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Mike Bingle Davis.
And Mike, by whom are you employed?
I am working for Kirkwood Oil and Gas in Casper, Wyoming.
Okay. And have you testified before the commission previously?
No.
What I'd like you to do, Mike, is briefly highlight for us your educational background and work experience.
Well, I'm a graduate of a master's degree in geology from the University of North Dakota in 2006. Subsequent to that, I've worked for Cameco Corporation as a exploration geologist for approximately 3 years. After which, I was brought on at Kirkwood Oil and Gas as a senior geologist for approximately 11 years.
Okay. And in preparation for today's hearing, have you made a thorough study and review of all the relevant geologic matters concerning this request?
Yes,
And prepared some exhibits you intend to sponsor?
correct.
For the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Mike, let's turn to the next exhibit in the packet, and my understanding is Exhibit 2 is nothing more than a narrative of the information that's on Exhibit 3 and 4. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's just skip over Exhibit 2, which certainly can be a part of the record, but let's go to Exhibit 3, and I'll have you identify Exhibit 3 and explain the importance of Exhibit 3 with respect to this request to create the 320 and allow the drilling of the well as it appears on Exhibit 3.
Yes, Exhibit 3 depicts a structure map on the top of the Red River Formation with a contour interval of 10 feet and illustrates the north-south trending orientation of the bicentennial anticline.
Okay. And if you want to drill a well to the Red River Formation, and I think one of the targets that you'll probably talk about in a little bit would be the D zone or the D interval of the Red River, is it important to drill those wells on the crest of the structure?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's what you're showing here with your proposed bottom hole location. It would be in the crest of the structure, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go then to the next exhibit, Mike, which has been previously marked. I'm sure you're having trouble finding exhibit numbers. Here we go, Exhibit 4. Identify that exhibit and once again, tell us the importance of this exhibit with respect to the application.
This is a log that depicts the, electronic log that depicts the Red River top, A, B, C, and D.
Okay, and I think you've indicated as a result of my last question that the D zone is one of the targets. Other planned, or are there other targets for this well that you're proposing?
We intend to drill through the D in anticipation that that would be the productive interval, but there is also a possibility of the other A, B, and C being productive as well.
Okay, is the A, B, and C productive in this area generally, or is it primarily the D?
Primarily the D.
I believe that's all the questions I have of the geologic witness.
Any questions from the staff?
Mike, looking at your Exhibit 3, the structure map that you're presenting here, is this entirely based on well control, or are you using seismic in the area as well?
Both. It's based on well control in this particular instance, but we also have seismic, which is outlined by the red, which also depicts that at the top of the or crest of the anacline.
And it was it using the seismic interpretation, part of what identified the target you intend to drill at this point?
Correct.
The Exhibit 4, the type log you're presenting, what's the well file, or what well is that from?
That's the federal 1220.
Do you know the location on that one?
It's approximately 2 miles southeast. It was recently drilled, and that's the reason why it's included as an exhibit in this particular case. Rather than using a raster log, it's available as a LAS.
Okay. And the currently existing Red River pool, as it exists for Bicentennial Field, is sufficient for what you're proposing to do here? I believe it's the entire Red River formation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, one more question. On your Exhibit 3, the well that you're presenting here, is it proposed to be a directionally drilled well from the surface hole to the bottom hole, or are you proposing a lateral?
It's a directional.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I'm looking at your Exhibit 3. This has been quite a few years ago, but in 2009, Wesco was in to space the Red River in the east half of Section 1. There was a well that was permitted in well file is 19217 in the northeast of Section 1. It was canceled since. I'm just wondering, what additional evaluation has Wesco gone through that came up with the new plan to shift the spacing unit up a quarter section?
The orientation of the anacline is approximately northwest to southeast, and the new drilling and spacing unit represents that orientation versus a east-west DSU.
Is your bottom hole location pretty similar to where your previous surface hole location was for that expired permit?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mike, on Exhibit 3, why are you drilling the well directionally?
This is based on having a potential secondary drill from the surface hole location, allowing us to offset the bottom hole location as depicted in the exhibit.
I might be able to help you too, Mark.
And there's also topographic concerns regarding superficial features
It-
and to minimize impacts as far as the drill path location.
those features in the northeast of 1?
Correct.
And, you know, you're gonna drill it direction, are you gonna drill it, deviate it up hole and then go vertical through the Red River?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kirkwood,
Yep.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Tom, by whom are you employed?
Kirkwood Oil and Gas and Wesco Operating.
And in what capacity?
I'm a engineer.
Okay. And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
No.
What I'd like you to do then, Tom, is, as the other two witnesses, or, excuse me, as Mike did, briefly highlight for the examiner and the commission staff your educational background and work experience.
I graduated from the University of Wyoming in 2008 with a degree in mechanical engineering, at which time I went and worked for Schlumberger doing logging well drilling, directional MWD for about a year and a half. And then I came back and started working here at Kirkwood and Wesco in late 2009, and have worked here as a production/projects engineer across multiple states, and did gain my my professional engineering.
And in preparation for today's hearing, have you made a thorough study and review of all the relevant engineering matters?
Yes.
And have you prepared or had prepared under your control and supervision, some exhibits you intend to sponsor?
Yes.
We'll offer the further testimony of this witness out of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Tom, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet after the log. I believe it's Exhibit 5. Can you identify Exhibit 5 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it?
Yeah, so Exhibit 5 is basically covering the decline curve and economics that I ran on the well, on the proposed 41-1 well. I used the offset well, which is Exhibit 6 is the decline curve, as we don't know exactly what the wells could possibly make, so I just used the closest offset to calculate the economics on, and then it kind of shows the what was yielded with an IP of about 130 barrels of oil a day and a life of 60 years, given an IRR of about 16.8% and a payout of about 3.5 years, showing with the shown properties economic inputs.
So it will be an economic venture if it performs like the analog. Is that a fair statement?
Correct, yeah.
And as you pointed out, the next exhibit in Exhibit 6, that's a decline curve of the analog you used to come up with the economics for your proposed well. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in your opinion, Tom, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Correct.
I have no further questions, Mr. Examiner, to offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Maybe everyone else in the room already knows this, but what's the relationship between Wesco and Kirkwood Oil and Gas?
So Kirkwood is the lease owner, and Wesco Operating is what the operations are done under.
Thank you.
Apologize for that.
No problem. I appreciate it.
Thomas or Mike, I guess, I don't see a exhibit that depicts the typical reservoir parameters or what your anticipated reservoir parameters are for the target here. Is that something you could provide?
Just, I mean, the field already exists, so the reservoir parameters would be in the field order, wouldn't they?
Potentially in previous field orders, but it's evaluated kind of routinely whenever a new spacing comes up, so I just glance at it and make sure it stays in line with everything, so
Okay.
it could be provided.
Okay, to Thursday,
We can do the same thing the week long.
pardon me?
We can do the same thing we've been doing
Yeah.
the week long.
Yeah. And Mr. Suggs, I'm not questioning you, I'm just trying to understand, so.
I guess,
I'll take care of it, Tom. I'm just gonna go to the previous order and provide that information to Rich.
okay,
I'll run it past you, though.
okay.
Okay, the record will remain open in this case until January 30th. And that concludes our hearing for case number 31475. And that concludes our hearings for the day.
Are we off the tape?